I'd like to gavel in our regularly scheduled meeting for March the 3rd, 2014. If you would all please stand us and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper.
Here.
Alderman Nguyen.
Here.
Alderman Robertson.
Here.
Alderman Kramer.
Present.
Alderman Tui.
Here.
Alderman Levy.
Here.
Alderwoman Manister.
Here.
Alderwoman Saunders.
Here.
Thank you. Next item, approval of the agenda for the regular meeting for March 3rd, 2014. Any changes? Motion to approve the agenda as submitted, please.
So moved, Your Honor.
And second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Discussion.
Okay.
Your Honor, there's a bill in the agenda that I would like to request get moved to an executive session that would be properly posted.
Let's do that when we get to the bills, please.
Thank you, Your
Okay.
Honor. I can wait till then.
Okay. All in favor of approving the agenda as submitted, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Next item, consideration and approval of the minutes from the special Board of Alderman meeting from February 3rd, 2014. Any changes?
Motion to approve as submitted, Your Honor.
And second?
Second, Your Honor.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Next item, motion to approve the regular Board of Alderman meeting minutes from February 3rd, 2014. Any changes? Motion, please.
Motion to approve the February 3rd regular Board of Alderman minutes as submitted.
And second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Next item, approval of the special meeting from February 14th, 2014. Any changes?
Motion to approve the special Board of Alderman meeting for February the 14th as submitted.
And second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Next item, item D, hearing special meeting minutes from February 24th, 2014. Any changes?
Motion to approve as submitted, Your Honor.
Second.
We have a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Next, we have a presentation recognition. We have a acceptance of a donation from O.B. Clark. Are they present this evening? Do we have representatives? Okay. All right, we'll talk to them, see if they can make it to the next meeting. Okay, item 6, public hearing. We have one public hearing this evening. Thank you.
Good afternoon, or good evening, Your Honor, to the board. This evening, we do have one request on for public hearing. This is a zoning text amendment change that's proposed. As far as the scope of the change itself, it's fairly minor. And the city received a request to locate a chiropractor within an area that was zoned light industrial district. After reviewing it, the use is not currently permitted in the light industrial district. We did have a sponsor from the board, Alderwoman Manister. She sponsored the request. We went through the process. We went through the Planning and Zoning Commission. They reviewed the request to basically add professional office as a permitted use within the light industrial district. It's the only change that's included. Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the change by a vote of 8-0.
Okay. Thank you. It is now 7:04, so I will open the public hearing.
Thank you.
If anybody would like to address the board with respect to this change to light industrial zoning district, please come forward and give us your name and address. Okay, hearing none, I will close the public hearing. Alderwoman Saunders?
Is this just a formality, Justin? Because there's law offices in there. Are law offices considered professional?
Yes, law offices are considered professional offices.
Okay, so when they renovated that space, I guess we didn't notice it then?
I would assume that that would be the case.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Next item, bids. We have 2 this evening.
Yes, Mayor. Staff issued a request for proposal for HVAC maintenance and mechanical services to provide services such as routine preventative maintenance, seasonal startups and inspections of our HVAC system at City Hall, the Police Department, Public Works Department, the Office, the Historical Society. These are other buildings and houses that the city owns. The Busy Bee building at the Memorial Park and the Norm West Park building. There were 4 companies that responded to the proposal, namely American Mechanical at a price of $14,749, Waldinger Corp. At a price of $7,896, Dahl at $12,400, and Vogel at $6,325. The Public Works Committee recommends that the bid be awarded to Vogel at $6,325.
Okay. And we have a bill on this evening?
Yes, we do.
Okay. And the second bid?
The second bid, staff also issued a request for a proposal last fall for the design and installation of a new playground at Oak Tree Park. This design and installation will include surfacing that would be inclusive for children of all abilities. It will also design a setting that would be very complimentary of the Oak Tree Park. And the total budget that was in the Parks capital budget was $250,000. Staff recommends that when Public Works Committee approved this recommendation, that the city administrator also be given authorization to approve change orders not to exceed $17,499.
Okay. Any questions? Alderman Lay.
Bola, with that additional potential for change orders, we already had put in this year's budget the $250,000. If those change orders were exercised and we reached, say, 12 or 13,000 into change orders, would that require a budget amendment that would have to come through before we could authorize the change orders?
No, because the total budget amount is for $250. The amount that was submitted by Cunningham Recreation was for $249,986.41.
Yes, but with this bill, we are looking at also authorizing
would
the
be.
17,000,
It would
up
be.
to a
It
17,000
would be.
change order.
Right.
So what I'm looking for is how the procedure works.
We would have to bring that back to the board.
Back to the board, even though the change order would come in, you would still have to seek board approval to spend the money because we went over budget? Or we could authorize you to authorize the change and then by the end of the year adjust it so that we could cover the bill?
If the total amount,
Exceeds the 250,000 that we
We've only got a
budgeted.
couple.
it would have to be a budget amendment, and we would inform you through Ways and Means and to the Board of Aldermen as well. So at the end of the year is when we usually do the budget amendment.
Amendments.
Right. So you would grant that approval before we would expend all that funds, yes.
This was the conversation that I had at Public Works. And also, what triggers, like, going out for an RFP? Like, what threshold, 10,000, or what's the threshold?
It is 10,000.
So I felt like the change order shouldn't be any higher than that we're willing to grant in there. And again, it's a bidding process, so I feel like the change order, unless you said you were going to
We
have
don't
that built in.
anticipate it, but we just wanted to be prepared, because when you work on construction projects that are of this magnitude, you have to plan for the unknown, and that's what we're trying to do.
Well, how did they determine the 17,000? Is it a percentage?
It's 7%.
7%.
Right, so they're just using a percentage to get to that number.
Contingency.
As a contingency.
Right, that's all it
Most
is.
projects, you would have a 10% contingency.
Exactly. It'd be higher
Right.
than that.
So that is common. I mean, I realize I worked for a developer that I understand change orders and the whole concept, but in government, when you're bidding a job, it's still appropriate, after you've picked the lowest bidder. And I'd said maybe somebody else has more built into their bid than the other person, maybe they,
I don't
Allow
know that that's the
for-
case here. Staff hasn't indicated that that's the case. We're just trying to plan ahead.
Frank, I'm just looking more for legal on change orders within.
If the board approves, the city administrator could approve those change orders. Change orders are very common in every construction project, and my presumption is what they're trying to do is build in the flexibility to be able to act as these situations come up.
So that we don't slow it down.
So we don't have to delay up to a month at a time.
I completely understand. The thing is, do you have to mention that you're going to build that in the bid, that you're going to allow for a certain percentage of change orders?
I think if the city administrators, they have the authority to authorize a change order, it should be granted by ordinance.
Okay, the reason I'm asking it the way I'm asking is I wanted to make sure that the bid was fair for everyone.
We
And after the
believe it
fact,
to
you
be.
had.
We haven't heard any complaints from any of those vendors who
That,
participated.
do you understand? I don't understand the legalities of it. Do you know what I mean? It seems like if you, after the fact, then you pick a bid, and then you add
don't-
change orders later, that bid then could have really been higher than
All
the
the
other.
bids came in at, and I can read it out for you, all-inclusive recreation submitted for $250. Cunningham Recreation submitted for $249, $986 and 41 cents. Hutchinson Recreation Design submitted for $250. New Toys Leisure Products submitted for $250.
Yeah, I have them.
So,
Okay.
and even with that, who's asking for the contingency? Is that staff?
We are staff.
See, it's staff asking for the contingency, not the contractor. So this is our protection so that we can keep the project moving forward, not the contractor bidding, accepting the bid, they're coming back and saying, I need a 7% contingency.
Well, there's a bill on later for this.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. So it's us, not them,
Right.
which is a difference.
Thank
So,
you.
Okay. All right, next item, item 8, hearing of any matters of public interest upon any persons present. If anyone would like to address the Board of Aldermen, please come forward and give us your name and address. And I would like to just let everybody know, we do have a 3-minute time limit with addressing the Board of Aldermen, and we will stick to that as we move forward this evening, just in case to keep things moving along. So if anybody would like to address the Board, please come forward and give us your name and address.
Matt Saunders, 2326 Park Ridge. I'm talking about the code of conduct, and this is the third time I will have asked this question. The code of conduct is going to limit the scope of information that our aldermen are allowed to have, and it's based on it takes a lot of time for the office personnel to collect information aldermen want. My only question is, how many requests? How much time does it take? I mean, if you're going to vote on something, I'm assuming all of you want the facts and not just the residents. Thanks.
Denise Sebbing, 2612 Porter, and going along with the conversation about the code of conduct, I would ask that the committee that's reviewing that code of conduct also build into there something to the fact that some of our elected officials and our city administrators return phone calls in a timely manner, don't ignore phone calls. On one recent situation, we actually placed 9 phone calls and never received a return phone call over the course of 3 weeks. It's very frustrating to residents when you don't get return phone calls, and I'd appreciate if building that into the code of conduct that, you know, a city official or a city employee return a phone call, even if it's to say I received the call, I don't have an answer, in a reasonable period of time, 48 hours, 72 hours. Thank you.
Okay, we'll close public comment. Move on to introduction, reading, and passage of bills. Is Bill 5796 remaining on hold?
Correct.
Okay. We are very close, though. Is it was
Yes.
one,
We
and they've
expect
agreed
they'll be
to?
on
We
the
just haven't
next
gotten their
agenda.
signature yet?
Right.
Okay, good. Okay. If I can have a motion for the first and second readings of bills number,
Your Honor.
well, Alderman Leahy.
Thank you. Let's take Bill 5829. It was placed on hold because I had questions that I wanted answered and got those resolved. So I'm willing to remove that from hold
Okay,
to work with.
let's do that first. So you have a motion to remove bill number 5829 from hold.
So moved.
And second?
Second, Your Honor.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. Alderman Leahy?
Bill 5832, this is the one that deals with the stay of litigation. I would request that that be placed on hold, and I request that a special Board of Aldermen meeting be held in executive session for a legal matter to discuss this and the other issue that I submitted to the city to be discussed in executive session, if that would be so agreeable with the board.
Okay, well, that would have to be done at a future meeting.
Correct.
And we do have representatives here from our bond council. With respect to this bill, I think the concern that I have is that we proceed in a timely manner. This bill is just reaffirming the agreement that we entered into in the courts back in September of 2008. We have, since a second lawsuit was filed, on numerous pleadings to the court, said that we are ready to move forward and do our part as part of the settlement that we agreed to again in September of 2008. The only change to that in this bill is that the city will be receiving $80,000 in reimbursements for our legal fees for this portion of the lawsuit. And other than that, nothing really in the agreement has changed. There isn't any renegotiating to be done, anything that we could change unless we are taking on some additional liability from the city standpoint. The agreement and the settlement cannot be changed at this point.
Your Honor, I understand your personal views.
Well, that is the legal position. We'd like to have the attorneys reaffirm that. That is the legal, it's not just my views, it's the legal position that the city's in, so.
I'm happy to address any questions you have. This, as I call the second round of litigation, the city was not, none of the claims by the developers or the banks were directed towards the city of Brentwood. We were a party to that second round of litigation because we had signed the first settlement agreement back on September 9th of 2011. So we've always said in the second round of litigation that the city stands ready to go ahead and abide by that September 2011 agreement.
There are two very critical issues. I'm not comfortable discussing them in public session. I think it should be done in executive, and I would really like to have both issues formally addressed before this board's asked to make a decision.
Sir, all this agreement is doing is telling everybody that everything's going to be stayed, and the new deadline that we have from Judge Hamilton in the federal court is May 1st. And she's given us that amount of time for the developers and the banks to work out their issues on reissuing those bonds.
So we do have until May 1st, so we don't need to necessarily have to pass this evening. We could do it later this week.
Later this week? Okay.
We could, if the mayor would like to call an executive session. That's the motion on the floor.
But it's not going to change anything. We cannot renegotiate that September.
Not a matter of renegotiating. I want clarification. Because this document that was given to us does not match the same financial issues that were in the original settlement agreement. Are you aware of that?
Nothing has changed for the city. Under the original agreement back in 2011, the city was required to put forth $150,000. And now that cash will still be, the city's going to stand by its original agreement, but we're also going to deduct the $80,000 that the city is going to be reimbursed for its attorney's fees that it's incurred since that time with this second round of litigation. Nothing's changing.
You are correct. Some of the numbers might have changed with respect to the developer and the bank.
Yes.
Right.
Well,
but that doesn't affect us.
Right, that doesn't affect us because that's who the lawsuit was between. So, and we don't, again, unless we want to get involved with their lawsuit, we don't have any say in that. So yeah, those numbers have changed. But the bondholders in this agreement, again, will be, the bonds will be reissued, get back in the market, and we'll start paying them down, opposed to being held by the bank. And really, that should be the goal of the city.
I'm not opposed to that goal, Your Honor, but there are some issues that I think need further clarification before this board can make an informed decision and move forward. And I really think it should be done in executive session. That's my motion. Please.
Is there a second?
Can I discuss?
Okay, well, okay, no second on that motion. Alderman Saunders.
Well, I mean, it's not, as long as when we get to this bill and we begin discussing, if you think we're crossing a line, then you will need to rein us back in. Can I ask, too, your name, and are you with Thompson Coburn?
I'm Kathy Schrader with Thompson Coburn. And it's
Okay,
nice to
sorry.
be
thank you,
able to-
Kathy. Nice meeting you, too.
Same here.
Yes, and I've been going back and forth, so I'm a little surprised that this document came to us. Not in the city administrator report, it's on here Friday. Have they executed this agreement? It was supposed to be executed by the developers, ERA, and the banks before it came to us for approval.
My understanding is that the last email I received on it was that Mr. Bush had executed it and the banks had executed it. I don't know about the other two developers as of now. I didn't make any inquiries today about that.
Okay. Because at the December meeting, I asked, and it was until this document's executed by them and brought to us for approval, I couldn't see the document, even though it was dated January 31st. And here it is March 3rd, and it's coming before us again. And I get it on Friday, and it's here before us on a Monday, a rather complicated issue that not all of us were here. And I've asked to see the underlying documents and am willing to spend my time with that. Although Alderman Leahy doesn't want me to see the documents, but as long as you rein us in, I'm fine. As long as you rein us
another
in,
issue.
I'm fine
That's a separate
discussing
issue
it
with
here.
regard to reviewing the
I prefer to
documents.
keep it out in the
Yeah.
open.
Again, that is separate, and I think you may be confusing what we had in December with what we have before us now, because there is no settlement agreement moving forward in December.
December was the stay of litigation in order, that's why we didn't have the trial in December. That's what you had said.
But there wasn't any formal
There wasn't anything for
document.
us to do. Again, that was between the courts and the developer. That didn't have any, the notice, we just received a notice.
So the document was dated January 31st. Kathy, why are we just receiving it March 3rd?
What I can tell you is that on November 20th, when the developers and the banks reached an agreement, principle, they orally, we had a conversation with Judge Hamilton because that case was set for December 2nd for trial. And she gave the banks and the developers 90 days to get this agreement finalized. And that agreement was extended on February 18th. A motion was filed, and she gave us some additional time. This document at that point became pertinent and relevant to document what we were going to do. We're going to stay the litigation and give the developers and the banks time to get these bonds reissued and to get everything resolved.
Why,
So-
when they were coming to the agreement, okay, you were saying that they were coming to an agreement, and they gave them 90 days to put it in writing, and then they went ahead and got this in writing. Why is it important for us to stay the litigation?
Well, they want us to sign off on it because we were a party to the original September of 2011 agreement. They want the city that here we are, we're going to stand by what we said we would
We're
do.
executing really the original agreement, not
But we
this one.
sign off, and there's a consent judgment that is referenced that's not there, there's an exhibit that's not there, and yet we are signing off. I mean, you can't say you're a party to and not have all of the information. I mean, even though we're a nominal party.
We were a party to the original
I know,
September. And
but we were still named on the suit for this litigation. We stayed on the sidelines, but we were still named.
We were. We were. And we had to protect the city's interests by attending depositions and making sure that the city was protected.
Right.
But the entire time, we were also reinforcing the fact that we were ready to move forward with the agreement that we had signed, and I said 2011, September 2011.
Yes. We've said that
And-
repeatedly.
Right. And again, we're not changing that, and the numbers that have changed are the numbers between the developers, because quite frankly, the bank is contributing more money that they weren't contributing before. And so, but it's the same amount of bonds, and it's the same amount of principal that needs to be paid off, and all the more reason to get it back issued and start paying down that principal on the bonds instead of being tied up in court and litigation. So, okay. So, then we can, I'm sorry.
I'll still renew my motion. I think it's proper that we take it to executive session and ask for Bill 5832 to go to executive session.
Your Honor.
We're
Alderman
still going to
Kramer.
discuss it here, correct?
Yeah.
If I could, one more time, Kathy, could you give us the emergence of the timeline before the weekend that you mentioned a few minutes ago? That we need to get this taken care of before the weekend?
Well, Because the bank's attorney has been asking if we have the mayor's signature on the agreement to stay litigation, and we said it was going to be discussed this evening tonight, I think it's important to do this and not wait a month to make sure that this is going to be approved. It shows the city's good faith, that it's going to stand by what it executed back in September of 2011 to fund, that small portion of that agreement.
I understand. I totally understand. I wanted to hear your response. I appreciate it.
And I'm sorry, can I, go ahead.
Your Honor, I was just going to say that I'm willing to support Alderman Leahy's motion in the event that Alderman Leahy is willing to commit that on a scale of 1 to 10, the importance level is above 8.
I will commit to that.
Okay, I will second your motion.
Well, you need to make the motion again then first.
Motion is to remove Bill 5832 and post it for an executive session for discussion with both this bill and the other issue that I wrote to the city asking for the same executive session on the same case. There are two issues that I think this board needs to discuss and resolve.
Okay. If we are able to do that, it would have to be done Thursday evening of this week. But again, I guess we can have a meeting. I wish I knew what you were talking about, that you think that there's even, with respect to this. I think in order to answer one of Alderwoman Saunders' questions too, with respect to timing, again, they've been negotiating, working towards a settlement and trying to get their financing in place and so forth within that 90-day period. I think within the last week, we received notice that they had done that, which, and at first, representatives from Thompson-Comer didn't believe that we actually needed to have an ordinance in order to move forward. They were just going to have me sign it because we'd already had the settlement agreement. The city attorney thought it would just be more appropriate to have an ordinance put in place as we move forward. So that's the reason we have the ordinance, and that's the reason it just came about the middle of last week. So it wasn't that anything was, sometimes these things move very quickly, and when you're talking about a $23 million bond issue or 21, whatever it is at this point, and their settlement, trying to get it all completed so that they can get the bonds issued, the documents worked out, the bond documents printed and copied and ready for execution, that does take time, and they're not going to be able to start that process until all the documents are signed.
Understand.
So, okay. So
There is a 353 redevelopment corp meeting this Thursday at 6 o'clock.
well, we could have the meeting upstairs here, right?
Some of the same members.
Oh,
on the board.
353. Okay.
Start
At what time?
6.
Okay.
Could start at 5.
Yeah, we could do it at 5 o'clock on Thursday, as long as the people, again, we'll vote in a second, but that's what time if people can commit to. So 5 o'clock on Thursday. Okay, so this is to have an executive session, first of all, Thursday evening at 5 o'clock, so.
And Your Honor, we would have to have not only the executive session, but a regular session immediately thereafter to vote on the bill? Is that
Yes,
correct?
we would.
So a special meeting for the Thursday night?
Right. But we'd always have an open session, right? Okay. All right. Roll call.
Alderman Harper.
No.
Alderman Nguyen.
No.
Alderman Robertson.
No.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes.
Alderman Tui.
No.
Alderman Leahy.
Yes.
Alderman Manister.
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders.
Yes.
Well, since the meeting will only be for an hour, since it's a meeting file, I'll say yes.
Thank you, Your
Can't
Honor.
hurt.
So we will, would you be able, or someone be able to be there
Yes.
Thursday? Okay. Thank you. Did that motion include putting the bill on hold?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Your Honor, I don't
so.
think there was a motion to put the
I
bill
thought
on.
it
Yes, it was. That was how I started it, to put
Well, the
Bill
first time, but not the second.
The final time,
Okay,
sir.
all right.
To put
The
Bill
mayor-
5832 on hold and call for an executive session.
But
Okay.
the mayor overrode you. He said, first, let's do a motion for the meeting. That's what you said.
No, I think I didn't know, Brian, I'm just saying that's what the
Okay.
motion was for. I
Okay.
misunderstood.
I'm
Okay.
willing to
Your
amend
Honor,
the second if
at this time, I'd like to request the first and second readings of Bill 5829, 5833, 5834, 5835, 5836, 5837, 5838, 5839, 5840, 5841, 5842, 5843, 5844, 5845, 5846, 5847, 5848, 5849, 5850, 5851, 5852, 5853, 5854, and
That's it.
that's for those first and second readings.
And second.
Second, Your Honor.
All in favor of first and second reading, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. First reading of bill number 5829, please.
First reading bill number 5829 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator to enter into and execute a service agreement on behalf of the city of Brentwood, Missouri with AMB Janitorial Services and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Thank you. Synopsis, please.
Yes, Your Honor. The synopsis is very similar to the title of the bill, Bill 5829 for janitorial services. It covers an action for an ordinance authorizing the mayor of our city and/or city administrator for the city of Brentwood to execute an agreement with AMB Janitorial Services, that for our city's Brentwood Police Department building. This has been heard and reviewed by, I believe, both Public Safety and Ways and Means. Is that correct?
Just public safety.
Just Public Safety.
Okay. Second reading, please.
Second reading bill number 5829 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator to enter into and execute a service agreement on behalf of the city of Brentwood, Missouri with AMB Janitorial Services and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Okay. Motion, please.
Your Honor, I move for adoption.
And second.
Second.
Motion is made by Alderman Robertson, second by Alderwoman Manster, to perfect bill number 5829 into ordinance form. Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper.
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yes.
Alderman Robertson.
Yes.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes.
Alderman Toohey.
Yes.
Alderman Leahy.
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister.
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders.
Yes.
Bill number 5829 is now ordinance number 4495.
Thank you. First reading of bill number 5833.
First reading bill number 5833 by title only, an ordinance terminating tax increment financing within the Kenilworth redevelopment area, dissolving the special allocation fund related thereto, and authorizing certain actions relating thereto.
Okay, synopsis, please.
Yes, Your Honor. This is where the synopsis comes in a little bit handy. 5833 is a termination agreement of the Kenilworth redevelopment area, otherwise known as Brentwood Square, and that tax increment financing district. Those bonds were called in full on February 1st, 2014, just a little while ago. They're being paid off 8 years earlier than the original maturity date of 2022. The bonds were issued in October 2001 for $15,660,000. The bonds are limited obligations to the city, payable solely from payments in lieu of taxes, otherwise known as pilots, economic activity tax revenues, or EATs, and municipal revenues subject to the appropriation by our city. And that's also subject to the Transportation Development District, or the TDD revenues subject to appropriation by the district. Throughout the life of the bonds, they've maintained an A rating by Fitch.
Okay. Any questions? Second reading, please.
Second reading bill number 5833 by title only, an ordinance terminating tax increment financing within the Kenilworth redevelopment area, dissolving the special allocation fund related thereto, and authorizing certain actions relating thereto.
Motion, please.
Motion to approve as submitted, Your Honor, Bill 5833.
And
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Kramer, second by Alderwoman Saunders. Sorry.
I just wanted to thank the mayor and the senior board members for seeing this project through, and it's been a very big success and good for the schools too, so I just wanted to say thank you.
Great.
Ditto.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper.
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yes.
Alderman Robertson.
Yes.
Alderman Kramer.
Absolutely.
Alderman Toohey.
Yes.
Alderman Leahy.
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister.
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders.
Yes.
Bill number 5833 is now ordinance number 4496.
Thank you. First reading of Bill number 5834.
First reading Bill number 5834 by title only, an ordinance amending Chapter 25 of the Revised Code of Ordinances of the City of Brentwood, Missouri by amending Section 25-260 as it relates to permitted uses, providing for the current maintenance of this code, providing for the repeal of all conflicting ordinances, and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Thank you. Synopsis, please.
Yes, Your Honor, we heard a bit about this during the public hearing. Bill 5834, the Light Industrial District, amendment to the permitted uses to allow professional offices. For those unfamiliar, basically we're talking about Hanley Industrial Court. Amendment is going to allow permission of a chiropractor's office to locate within an area zoned LID, Light Industrial District. Under our city's current uses established within that zoning regulation, a chiropractic business is classified as a professional office. Chapter 25, Article 2, Division 5, allows for any member of the Board of Aldermen to initiate an application for a text amendment. The request was sponsored by Alderwoman Manistar. Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed and recommended approval of this amendment by a vote of 8-0.
Okay. Any questions? Second reading, please.
Second reading Bill number 5834 by title only, an ordinance amending Chapter 25 of the Revised Code of Ordinances of the City of Brentwood, Missouri by amending Section 25-260 as it relates to permitted uses, providing for the current maintenance of this code, providing for the repeal of all conflicting ordinances, and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Okay. Any questions? Motion, please.
I move for adoption, Your Honor.
And second?
I second.
Motion is made by Alderman Robertson, second by Alderwoman Manister to perfect Bill number 5834 into ordinance form. Roll call.
Alderman Harper.
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yes.
Alderman Robertson.
Yes.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes.
Alderman Tui.
Yes.
Alderman Leahy.
Yes.
Alderwoman Manister.
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders.
Yes.
Bill number 5834 is now ordinance number 4497.
Okay. First reading of Bill number 5835.
First reading Bill number 5835 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator to enter into and execute a participation agreement on behalf of the City of Brentwood, Missouri with East Central Dispatch Center and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Okay. Synopsis, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Bill 5835 for the Brentwood Dispatch Center. This bill is for an ordinance authorizing the mayor of our city and/or city administrator for Brentwood to approve a new agreement with East Central Dispatch Center, or ECDC, for centralized police, fire, remote prisoner monitoring, and other emergency dispatch systems. That's between the city of Brentwood and the cities of Clayton, Maplewood, Shrewsbury, Webster Groves, and Olivet.
Okay. Before we move forward and open this up for discussion with the board, I have two letters that I would like to read into the record, one from Chief Drury and one from Police Chief Dispennett. This first one is from Chief Drury. Mayor Kelly, members of the Board of Aldermen, I regret that I am unable to attend tonight's meeting. I am on a family vacation that was planned over a year ago and will not be back in town until March 13th. I would like to take this opportunity to provide my recommendation to the Board of Aldermen for their approval of the proposal for dispatch services for East Central Dispatch Center. In the fall of 2013, the city was approached by ECDC and asked to consider approval from them for police and fire dispatching services. When I began doing my research into the proposal, my primary consideration was for the safety and security of the residents of Brentwood and the employees of the fire and police department. My decision to recommend acceptance of ECDC proposal was not taken lightly, and my recommendation comes only after extensive research and investigation of all the facts. Over the course of the past several months, I have met on a number of occasions with representatives of ECDC in an effort to get questions answered, review statistics, and tour their facilities in order to get a complete understanding of their operation and capacity. I also had very direct and honest discussions with the fire chiefs who utilize ECDC, all of whom I have known personally and trust their advice and guidance regarding this matter. Each one of these fire chiefs has years of experience dealing with ECDC and without reservation agree that this decision would be in the best interest of the city of Brentwood. After considering all the facts provided by ECDC as well as the opinions of the chiefs that utilize ECDC, I came away satisfied that ECDC would provide a better and safer dispatch service for the residents and employees. I was particularly impressed with their use of emergency medical dispatch, the fact that they have a training officer, written training programs, a quality assurance program, direct daily oversight by an operations manager, and monthly meetings between the fire chiefs and ECDC managers. I want to stress the fact the decision to recommend acceptance of this proposal by the Board of Aldermen was a joint decision agreed on by both Police Chief DeSpennett and me. The Chief and I met on several occasions to discuss this issue. As each meeting, we had frank, honest discussions concerning the operations of ECDC with a focus on their ability to provide the highest level of safety and reliability for our residents and our police and firemen. Chief DeSpennett conducted his own research into the operation and capacities of ECDC, utilizing this research, and came to the conclusion that I did. In weeks before his retirement, Chief DeSpennett gave his full support and recommendations to City Administrator Akande and me for acceptance of ECDC proposal. As a fire chief for the City of Brentwood, it is my responsibility to provide the safest and most reliable emergency service for our residents and our public safety employees. I would never make a recommendation that provided for anything less. In my opinion, this proposal accomplishes that. Therefore, it is my recommendation that the Brentwood Board of Aldermen approve the proposal for dispatch services with ECDC Central. Signed, Chief Jury. Second letter received March 1st from Chief DeSpennett. As you are aware, Chief Jury and I were given the task of reviewing our current dispatch center in late October 2013. This was brought on by a proposal from East Central Dispatch Consortium to consider joining their group. Chief Jury and I both did our due diligence in reviewing all of the facts by meeting with the representatives, chiefs of the cities involved, along with the general managers of the organization. After several meetings, we both came to the conclusion that the City of Brentwood would be better served by joining ECDC. This decision did not come easily, and I was torn by the possible loss of jobs by some of our dispatch personnel. After, as difficult as that is, or was, I also had to assess objectively and honestly our current dispatch organization and the shortcomings that we always present. I personally witnessed the 2008 severe flood that occurred in our city and the inability to answer all the telephone lines with only one dispatcher on duty at that time. We were very fortunate that no one was tragically hurt due to the short staff and duties of that day. I have constantly feared that a catastrophe event would occur in the city when we would be inundated with calls for help to our dispatch center. Many of those calls would not be answered in a timely manner, and the delay could have devastating results. ECDC has the personnel on duty to handle these types of events when they occur. Again, my decision to join ECDC organization was based on facts, not emotion. The City of Brentwood has always provided the best service to the citizens in the community. By joining ECDC, it would guarantee a more efficient response than we currently have in our existing dispatch structure. Respectfully, Chief Steve DeSpennett. So they asked me if I would read those into the record. We also have representatives here from ECDC tonight. A number of the chiefs from the surrounding municipalities to participate in it, in case anybody would like to have any additional questions of them. So,
Your Honor, are we to expect a presentation from?
I don't.
Mark, do you have a?
I don't think so, not unless anybody had some additional questions.
Okay.
In
Yes.
particular, the flood.
Can you make a motion for the board to open up the public comment on this particular bill?
Well, to address the question was made from the audience if we could have public comment at this point, but we already had our public comment section of the meeting.
I would make a motion.
Alderman Lay.
Your Honor, at this point, according to the code, the Board of Aldermen could vote to do such and open a public session. I will make that motion.
Andy already said it, make it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, if anybody would.
I will second Mrs. Saunders' motion.
All in favor, roll call, please, to open up public session again for this topic.
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yes.
Alderman Robertson.
Yes.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes.
Alderman Tui.
Yes.
Alderman Leahy.
Yes.
Alderman Manister.
Yes.
Alderman Saunders.
Yes.
Okay. If anybody would like to address the board with respect to the dispatch center police forwarding, give us your name and address.
3 minutes still, right?
Right.
To work.
My name is Brandon Jones. I live at 2637 Helen Avenue. I have a petition here that I would like to present to the board. Who would I give?
You just handle it.
I'll just go ahead and start. I am submitting for your consideration tonight a petition asking the Board of Aldermen to vote no on the ordinance in front of you. This petition was done both door-to-door and online at change.org, and I would like to read the text of the petition. Outsourcing our police, fire, and EMS dispatching to East Central Dispatch Center will cause significant delays in response time as well as the loss of jobs of our professional dispatchers. Some of us are parents of children with serious medical issues. Some of us are the children of elderly parents. Our emergency service personnel are second to none, and we expect it to stay that way. Our system is not broke. Please don't try to fix it. God forbid that lost 911 call comes from your house. The question of public safety has been asked and answered, and it is clear that ECDC is not a good fit for our fine community. We, the citizens and taxpayers of the city of Brentwood, Missouri, respectfully request that you, our elected officials, vote no on this proposal. Before I proceed, I'd like to thank the volunteers who helped me canvass neighborhoods and get these signatures. Most of you are in the audience. You know who you are. You were all a great help. The petition before you contains 409 signatures from Brentwood residents who are opposed to the outsourcing of our public safety workers. You might think that 409 is not very many in a city of 8,000 people, but keep in mind that we only had 8 of us out there canvassing, so we were only able to canvass a small fraction of the city. On my portion alone, I knocked on about 100 doors, and I got 46 answers. Of those 46, I had only 5 people say no. That is a whopping 89%. Another canvasser who got 35 signatures reported only 2 no's. That comes out to 94%. Statistically speaking, those numbers should hold close to true across the city. So the residents of Brentwood overwhelmingly don't want this. This administration has been wrought with controversy over the past couple years. It's time to start listening to your constituents. The ordinance before you tonight asks that you authorize the mayor to enter into an agreement with ECDC. I'm here to tell you that the citizens of Brentwood make no such authorization. This is where we're taking our stand. Please do not go against the will of the people. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Bill Griesmer. I live at 8508 Genevieve, a resident of Brentwood for over 20 years. And I agree with Brandon. It was a casual sampling, but 90% of the people I talked to were not convinced that this was the best for Brentwood. And as a city, nobody has convinced me. I hear out of all this research and recommendation that this is what the chief wants to do and want to do, but I haven't heard anything that sways me. I look at I hear that it's not about cost, it's about providing safety, and I look at the bill and the first thing I see is cost providing and maintaining a central dispatch system is cost prohibitive. So it is a cost issue. And it talks about adequate service. I didn't move to Brentwood to have adequate service. I expect us to have more than adequate service. Safety for the residents, Brentwood. Concern, looking at, I guess, more the reports in the paper, what's been said, as we move to this centralized dispatch system, I guess that they're going to add one more dispatcher per shift. So it's going to go from 4 to 5 dispatchers per shift for 7 communities. Now, I'm having a hard time with that ratio. I don't quite understand. The idea of consolidated call center is that the equipment is consolidated so we don't have that duplicated expense. I don't see where we have to ramp down with staff. It seems to me that ratios don't make sense, so we're not going to have the ratios we need and the familiarity with our region and the people here. And then looking at just national statistics as far as what type of calls come in to our 911 call center, 4% fire, 12% medical, 84% police. Everything I've heard right now is pushing to this 16% of calls, and I've heard nothing that would apply to these 84% of calls. So I just, as a citizen, I need more information, and I would hope that you could convince us, and because the trend is, or at least the feel in the city, I think, is that we're not sure this is a good thing for us. So that was the reason we wanted to talk. I'm all for better budget, but not at the cost. Okay, so I just thank you for the time.
My name is Jill Manister. I live on Delaney Avenue. I'd like to tell you the story of a fire that I had a couple years ago. I went out to start my butane on fire on my deck. I saw, after I went out to check on to see if my fire was heated up, I saw a few flames on top of my butane tank. I thought it was maybe grease on there, so I put a pan on top of it to try to put it out, and it didn't. So I walked in my house to the phone. I dialed for 911. She told me that they would be there right away. I walked through my house, out the front door, and the truck was pulling up the street. I do live close, but a lot of people live close in Brentwood. That's the advantage. They pulled the hose off the truck. We walked through the backyard, and when we got to the side of my house, my flames were above my roof. If they weren't there that quick and that soon, my house probably would have been on fire. I'd like to know why the 2 chiefs aren't here for us to check on their questions, because it's advantage of them to be able to read a letter. But I'd like to hear it from their lips, because I don't believe all of this. I don't believe that the whole fire department and police department is for this. And these are the men that service us. I also believe that this is sort of a beginning of a way of a progress of the city and county to be joined, and I don't like that. Our city has a lot of good qualities. I've been raised in this community. My grandfather was the first appointed mayor of this city. I have a lot of heart in this city, and I do not want to see it being taken away and put into a number of a group. We depend on our policemen. They come to our door. We recognize them. We recognize our fire department. We are family, and I cannot see any reason to sell out our community, and that's what I believe voting for this would be. Thank you.
Okay, we'll close the comments. I'll try to address a couple of those.
Somebody else had one.
Oh, I'm sorry. One more. Sorry, that's all right.
Thank you so much for your time tonight. My name is Paige Russell. I live at 8514 Joseph Avenue. My grandparents moved from Germany and built their house in Brentwood on 1923 St. Clair. They raised my mother. She graduated from Brentwood High School, she along with my father. They raised me at 9003 Powell Avenue and then 2210 Hatton Lane. I graduated from Brentwood High School in '88. Our daughter graduates this year. I moved away for because I was foolish, and then I came home. I was very happy to come home, and the first week I got home, my little five-pound puppy got lost, took a little tour of Brentwood. So I did what we all do. I canvassed the neighborhood. Angie, Wallig, everybody came out and helped me. We couldn't find her. My best friend, Yvette Trokey, said, Pager, call dispatch and tell them you've lost your dog. And I said, I don't think I can do that. They'll think I'm crazy. But I did it. I called dispatch. She was professional. She was compassionate. And an hour later, my dog was back in my arms. Now, during that hour, another Brentwood resident called dispatch and said, hey, I have this puppy who's cowering under my porch. Do you know whose it is? And the dispatcher was able to say, yeah, that's Paige Russell's dog. Got her home to me. Yes, it's just a dog. Dogs in our household or our family. But my question to you is, what if that had been my daughter? What if that had been your son or your parents or grandparents? Because here's the thing, we all live here. We all came back here for a reason. We love this city, all right? This is my point. I am not convinced from what I've read, and I've read a lot, and I've looked into this a lot, and there's a lot of information that you all have not told us, that we found out on our own, which is why people are signing petitions. I'm not convinced that if you outsource, farm out an integral and important service to a conglomerate that is serving a whole bunch of other communities, not just Brentwood, what are you doing? There's a letter here from the undersigned police officers. They drafted a letter in support of our dispatchers. They said right here, it's important, it's impossible to overstate the quality and service and knowledge of our Brentwood dispatchers. I'm so upset, oh my gosh. They said, our citizens that have needed our police department or will need them in the future, we hope you can understand why having a quality dispatch center is essential to our job. Please listen to your public safety employees whose lives depend on the quality of our communications that our dispatchers provide. Being added to a channel with multiple other agencies will cause a delay in services, if for no other reason than the sheer volume of radio traffic and call-ins. When you vote tonight, please stop thinking about politics and money and ego. Please instead think about your son, my daughter, their grandparents. All right? Please just think about it before you vote. Thank you so much.
Okay, we'll close public comment. Again, I will try to address a couple of those things to my knowledge, and then maybe a couple of them Mark can address as well. Just to reiterate, the proposal, or the reason that we're discussing this is because in order to upgrade our current equipment with the new county-wide system, the city will need to upgrade all of our dispatch equipment in order to adapt to the new system. That's going to cost about $350,000 in order to do that. That is going to be paid for by the county-wide tax, so that's not out of our pocket, but it is taxpayers' dollars, okay? In doing that, ECDC made a proposal to the city of Brentwood to see if one more time we wanted to try to join the organization. We were part of the original talks in forming ECDC back in the early 2000s. We were also in the process of building our new police department at the time. We were further ahead than they were. Chief Carabas at the time opted to move forward with the police department and our own dispatch in order to get our police department completed, because he wanted to do that before he retired. So we opted not to join ECDC originally when it was originally formed. Since then, we also have taken on Rock Hill as dispatch about 6 years ago. When they sold their police department building and got out of the dispatch business. The original agreement with Rock Hill, we only have one dispatcher per shift in the city of Brentwood on call all the time prior to that. The agreement with the Rock Hill was that we would take on their dispatch. We hired 3 new dispatchers at that time, and Rock Hill agreed to pay for those dispatchers. So the original 3-year contract was $180,000 a year that the city of Rock Hill was paying the city of Brentwood for their dispatching services. As we moved to the next agreement with Rock Hill and other options became available for Rock Hill, it's very technical, but it deserves to be explained. The reason that they wanted to come to us so that we could provide that service for them is we used the same radio frequency at that time. So it was very easy for them to come over to the city of Brentwood and for us to provide that service for them. But when other options became available to them when we renegotiated future contracts, moving forward to today, Rock Hill is still getting that same service from the city of Brentwood, but they're only paying us $55,000 a year. So we're covering those expenses for them. We had put them on notice because they basically shop it around almost every year that, if they didn't, they needed to start paying more for that service moving forward. And if they were to find something else at this point, the city would have to make a decision whether to get rid of those additional dispatchers because the call volume would go down, which would mean we'd be back down to 1 dispatcher per shift, or to absorb that cost and then have dispatchers, again, without that volume of calls, not having that much activity in those other times. So ECDC made the proposal to the city of Brentwood. And again, I know it is a very emotional, and I hope people would understand that if the Board of Aldermen, no matter what decision they make, no matter what side they're on this, we all live here too. I grew up in this community. I've raised my kids here. I've been to my mom's house when the ambulance was there 5 times. I understand the importance of it. I appreciate the work and understand the importance of this to the police and fire. But we have to, and ultimately, though, we need to make the decision with the information we have that we feel is best for the community. Again, with this proposal, what ECDC has proposed, or what the agreement would be, is that if we were to move forward with ECDC, they would agree to hire 3 of our 7 dispatchers, and they would increase their dispatchers by they would increase their dispatcher by 24 hours a day, so they would increase each shift of the day. And I'll let Mark give the exact numbers on that because I think it's actually 6 that they would be going up to, from 5 to 6.
Minimum.
The other thing that makes this possible that we couldn't even do it 10 years ago is the fact that technology has changed so drastically in that time. The importance of communication, the 911, this county-wide system, I think people throughout the county understand the importance of it, is why they supported the new sales tax in order to build this county-wide system. But the changes in technology is what's been within the last 10 years is what has enabled a lot of the communities to get rid of their individual dispatches and work together on that system. Under this proposal, currently the city of Brentwood, including what we provide to Rock Hill, we're spending about $600,000 a year on our dispatch services. Under the new the agreement with ECDC, what they do is they take the total calls, they take their total costs for the operation of the system, they take the total calls for the year of all the communities that are involved, and they divide that by the cost. So if that comes out to be 35 cents a call, then each city, they total up the calls at the end of the year, and that's what they pay towards the operation of the system. For Brentwood, again, our costs today are $600,000. If we were to join ECDC, that first year, based on our past history, our first year would cost $235,000. So that would be a savings then to the city of Brentwood if we joined ECDC. So that has to be taken, or that's part of that goes into the equation as well. The other thing to keep in mind is that not only fire, but we work together, our mutual aid, specifically with all of our public safety on a daily basis, both police and fire. By joining the consortium, those guys would be communicating. We would take out one step from Brentwood having to call ECDC in order to ask for help in those situations because we go directly to there. I'm trying to think what are some of the other items that were in the proposal. They would hire 3 of ours. The other thing that with St. Louis County installing in the new system and having this come online by the end of the year, there's also 10 openings. They'll be hiring 10 new dispatchers within the next few months for that facility that is actually down in South County in unincorporated St. Louis County at Ordorf Park. So there would be opportunities for the other dispatchers there for employment, again, if we opt to move in that direction. I think, to answer the question about why the chiefs aren't here, Chief Drury had scheduled a family vacation over a year ago, which he said in his letter, which is a 2-week vacation for he and his family, and they're actually in Hawaii, and it wasn't easy for him to change that. my understanding in talking to Chief Despena, he's actually out of town this week too, visiting his family down in Texas. So that's why the letters were read into the record. We do have some other representatives from other departments here, you know, and I think one thing that's come across with a couple of comments tonight is, you know, this isn't outsourcing, and I think this is another key component for people to understand. We would actually become partners in that operation. The city administrators are the board of directors of ECDC. Each of them have an equal vote on the operation of that. The other thing is that the police chiefs and the fire chiefs organization meet on a monthly basis. They try to resolve any of the issues that they have and move forward as a group in that. We would have an equal say in that. The chairman of the organization rotates on a yearly basis and rotates throughout all the members of the organization. We would be an owner in that, not just outsourcing it, and become part of that system. So this is the information as it's been presented to me and the board, and I would, you know, hope that and believe that if we were to enter into that we would be able to have the same response times that we have today. You know, you can look at our surrounding communities. You know, I doubt that any city administrator, any police chief, any fire chief that's already involved with that organization and part of it would want to have someone else enter that organization if it was going to be causing delays in their existing service to their communities. It just doesn't make sense that they would do that. These are all public safety professionals. And again, I can't stress enough, and it is very complicated. But what allows us to do this is the technology changes that have really come about in the last few years. And the ability to do that and the importance of these public safety employees working together on a regular basis is something that's important to all of us. We don't live on an island in the city of Brentwood. Every fire call that we have, every business, every home, if there's an active fire, you see more than just Brentwood there. And when our ambulance is out on a call and servicing one residence, there's been plenty of times when our neighboring communities have come to help with their ambulance when ours is out of service or taking somebody to the hospital. They rely on each other on a daily basis. So with that, I'll open up to the board if they have any additional comments.
I have a question.
Alderman Saunders.
First, I have a question. Alderwoman Manister and myself, we toured ECDC today and met with their dispatchers, and we also went to our dispatch. And do we have one channel at Brentwood's dispatch? We were told in closed session that we only had one channel, but when Cindy and I went today to the dispatchers, to the dispatch office, you know, we looked at their equipment, we compared it to the equipment at ECDC, and Brentwood has two channels in addition to a public works channel. There's a fire channel and there's a police channel. And we were not, did other people have a different impression? We were, because the emphasis was, what would Brentwood do if there were two incidences happening at the same time? Only one channel would be available, so there would be the next call would be in a queue. But that's not correct. There's two channels over there, and there's also a public works, which is administrative, I'm sure, an analog channel. So that was quite an eye opener.
So explain that. So, and again, I'm not sure, but if you have a police channel and the call's coming in for police, then how would that work?
Well, with two dispatchers on duty. Right. One person, as a fire came in when we were over there, and he was doing that, and then there was another call for police, and the other dispatcher took the police channel and was handling that, and it worked very smoothly. I mean, you know, again, there was the backlog of calls, and they were still handling their calls very well too, but you know, it just wasn't what we thought that we had. And then with moving over, though, to ECDC, they're going to add additional staff, but they're not gaining any channels. They're not adding any channels, and yet we're going to be putting more activity on those channels. And the other thing, too, that I had concern with is that the way this was handled, every motion came that all of the presentation and that was done in closed session, which again, the public needed to be educated. There was nothing we discussed that a few personnel that we could have, done at the end of the meeting, but so that you could hear what the pros and the cons were for both Brentwood and for both ECDC. But those presentations didn't happen in the public, and we didn't negotiate any terms of the contract. We basically they gave us a presentation, and one day we had Maplewood's mayor and administrator telling us how they liked it. The problem I have is that when this began in November, I guess a letter was a proposal to Alderman Nguyen. We weren't notified, the board, until December, about Christmas time. I guess Bola's letter was December 23rd. And then we met January 6th, and it was just kind of an overall proposal. The problem is that nobody met with the police and the dispatchers, and maybe not the firemen, I can't say for certain because they haven't said a word, but to sit down and say, what are your concerns with going to EC dispatch? How can we address these concerns? What's best for you? Is this best? And there's nothing worse, and I think everyone has probably experienced this, I know my husband for sure, than having management or corporate tell you how to do your job. It's very, very frustrating, and I don't think we should diminish the police professionalism by saying that they want to keep this dispatch because they really do have their back and it's a safety issue, by saying they're just doing this because they're friends with the dispatcher. You can be friends and professional. I did it for many years and I continue to do it. I don't think that's a problem whatsoever, and I really think it undercuts them. So I've been disappointed with the way it's come forward, and I do trust the police. And the other issue, too, is you have to, like when we were in closed session, do you plan for Armageddon or do you plan for 98% of the time? What is the likelihood in Brentwood that we're going to have a massive fire and a shooting at the same time? Probably less than 2%, but it could happen. But 98% of the time, you've got your police on, and we help them out, and we do run some Regis and different things for them that they don't have to type and look down at their screen so that they can be watching the suspect or the person they pulled over, which provides more safety for them. So we have to look at, do you provide for the majority of the time or that really off chance? And it's a cost-benefit thing. I mean, the same with the fire truck. Do you get the fire truck that has everything possible in the event that every catastrophe we're covered for? And is it going to be in the right place, or is it going to be knocked out by a tornado, or do you try to cover most of the time? And so I really think that we should respect the police and the dispatchers. I think they've done a great job. And I did talk to individuals outside of centralized dispatch too, police chiefs, excuse me. And there is this one thing about crime. There's a hunch factor. There's just that gut feeling, and it's really critical when you know the area well. And he said, how do you put a dollar amount on that? How do you quantify that? And it's very difficult to quantify. I talked to Ladue. They are always looking at all their options. They're looking at St. Louis County, and I did talk to Ladue and asked them, and Kirkwood, they said they talk about consolidating, but Ladue's got 4 channels. I mean, if you bring our 3 channels, I mean, we didn't look at all of our opportunities, and I just think that we should have, but we should have started with our police and firemen. Thank you.
Mark, could you address the staffing a little bit of how the proposal would work, or your staffing?
On the new staffing, there'll be 6 individuals per watch, not 5. Currently, we have 5 per watch, and then we have an afternoon person. We're adding 3 more. We're going to move our person who is working Monday through Friday, taking admin calls, and so each shift, there's 4 shifts, we'll have 6 people on them. So the minimum staffing goes to 5 on those shifts. So that's basically how we came to the numbers on staffing. Just a couple of things. This whole proposal, none of this is a reflection on the quality and dedication of Brentwood dispatchers. It really isn't. It's a decision for Brentwood. We've dealt with the Brentwood dispatchers for years and have a very good working relationship with the Brentwood dispatchers. And as I mentioned, this is not a reflection on the quality of their work. Our proposal is basically an alternative to look at, okay? And one of the things to keep in mind, I know you made the point regarding having multiple catastrophes at once, but I think if you look at the difference in dispatch services, especially in regard to emergency medical dispatch, there's a very strong likelihood you'll have one of your residents, an elderly or a young person, who needs resuscitation. They just had a stroke, they're on the ground, and if you have one person walking them through EMD, giving them pre-arrival instructions while your fire equipment's going there, and you get a bank robbery, you can't give instructions to that person and take care of the bank robbery with one person. And the problem is 60% of the time, or a high percentage, I don't have the exact numbers, you only have one person on. And to be honest with you, if you want to provide EMD and provide that service to your residents, which the majority of fire protection districts and departments do provide that nowadays, okay? That's one option that's going to be hard for you to do when you have one person working. Actually, they can't do it because you can't stay on the phone, talk on two radios, a police and a fire radio, and do all that at once. When we do have incidents that occur, we have the ability to open up another channel because we have more people working. We can say, gee, I have a hostage situation or whatever it is. We take and we move everybody over onto another channel. Over to a riot channel, we have a dedicated dispatcher. If that's happening on your police channel and you have other calls come in, okay, what do you do with the other calls? Now, you might have your entire force working that, and in that case, what do you need to do? Hopefully you call neighboring jurisdictions to come and to help out, okay? One of the advantages of us having multiple agencies on one channel is everybody knows what's going on. So when there's the bank robbery that occurs on Clayton Road, a little bit outside your jurisdiction there, but Clayton and Brentwood, for example, we have Richmond Heights there, we had Clayton there, and actually Maplewood heard it on the radio and they all showed up because they were coming back from Clayton. It enables people to know what's going on and to work on it. Other advantages, they're hearing calls that come out in neighboring jurisdictions. So they know, for example, they're chasing somebody or we're getting burglaries over here. It's not to say that Brentwood couldn't be monitoring a channel on a scan and pick it up, but it's different when it's actually on your channel. So I know there's some concerns about, gee, if we come over, the channel's going to be saturated. For example, Brentwood's going to come over on the north channel. We'll have Clayton on there and Richmond Heights on there. Okay, and we'll have Olivet on there. What we've said in discussions is that we will look at the capacity of all of our radio channels. Rock Hill has indicated that they may come also over to ECDC, okay? So they would come on a different channel, a south channel. But the decision as to who's going to be on what channel and we're going to open a new channel is up to our board of directors, which is our city managers. If Brentwood were to choose to join, they'd be in on the decision making. But it'll be based upon the statistics of how much open radio time, what are the other issues associated, and getting the comments from everybody and saying, yeah, we need to open this channel. Opening another channel, as you can understand, you need additional staff for that. At 6, we could possibly do that. We might ask for 1 or 2 more people, actually as administrative people, on the other channel to handle some of the calls if we go to a 3rd police channel. But is that going to happen? I don't know. That's a decision for the board of directors. But it is a possibility based on the volume, okay? But you understand, no one city in our consolidated dispatch center can just come along and say, oh, you need to open a channel. It all has to be agreed on because what happens is the funding for that is shared by everybody based upon a percentage of their calls for service. Now, just to pick up on what the mayor said earlier, I'm an employee of ECDC and I report directly to the city managers. And if I serve at their pleasure. So, I mean, they could give me a week's notice and I'm gone if I'm not performing my job as I should. The same thing with the police chiefs and the fire chiefs. They're not shy about telling us if we have a problem, if we're not doing a procedure properly, or if we need to change a procedure. We meet with them on a monthly basis, but I can tell you that I'm in discussions, and so is Mike Mowry, who's the operations manager there, on a daily basis with either a fire chief or a police chief. So if they have issues, they're not bashful about calling them, and we'll be welcome to get their calls, analyze what the issues are, and act on those issues that need immediate action. Some of the issues, for example, we may hold for a meeting, for our monthly meeting, and decide, what are we going to do on this? Are we going to change the policy, or what needs to be done? The transition over from having your own dispatch center to a consolidated one, you do have hurdles there. It's not necessarily easy, because what happens is there are a bunch of procedures, and everybody has to agree. When you come here, when we get on the radio, this is how we work in the radio. By and large, they're pretty standard, okay? But there's an adjustment, just like when you move into any new endeavor. So I just want to say that we've been in existence in 2004. Olivet came in 2006. The reason that Brentwood was even approached was it was in the best interest, not of ECDC, but of the fire chiefs and the police chiefs asked for it from the other cities. And it's Brentwood's decision whether you want to go or not, but they saw a big advantage, especially in fire, because every call, as the mayor had mentioned, a fire call, it's mutual aid. You're going to have multiple departments, and a minimum of 3 other departments that are going to be on that call. On the police side, not as much. But there are many instances when, and I know as I was a policeman for 30 years and Mike was for 32 years, when you have a call and a serious call, you never turn away another jurisdiction for showing up and backing you up. And I'm sure that all the jurisdictions feel the same way. When you're on a traffic stop, if you pull up and you have a car pull up next to you on the other side of the street and just watch what you're doing, that's always appreciated. So, again, it's the city of Brentwood's decision. We hope that you come and with ECDC. We're willing to look at changes to ECDC within the confines that we can do that. But again, it's not a reflection on the good quality of your dispatchers. They're good people. And we hope that whatever decision you make, ECDC is fine with that. Whether you decide to come with us or not, we always have a good working relationship with Brentwood. Thank you.
Mark, could you address just a familiarity with the community, how you address that? You mentioned again that your dispatchers would have drive-throughs, would go out in order to learn the community, those kinds of things.
Yes, a lot of our dispatchers don't necessarily live in the cities. We have some that live in Brentwood, not Brentwood, but in Richmond Heights. But in many instances, what you have are people from other areas, because to be quite frank, because we want dispatchers, generally we hire ones with experience. And we want ones, especially I have medical experience with EMD and also other experience. Over time, we do ride-alongs, but they become familiar with the area. They've become familiar with the streets. It's no different, I say, that if Brent were to hire somebody and they're from O'Fallon and they come to work at Brentwood, they're not going to know your streets initially until they become familiar with them. I don't know, and maybe it's unusual. Most dispatch centers, not all of the dispatchers come from the city or live in the city. They may in Brentwood, I don't know, because I don't have a background on that. But you're going to have turnover from time to time. You're going to bring people in. You do the ride-alongs with fire. We do it with police. We actually contact your fire department, and we have them do some of our training for CPR. Matter of fact, our certification for CPR, Richmond Heights did it this year. But we do training with Clayton. We do it with Maplewood. We're doing it with all of our agencies, especially to keep up on their medical certifications and so forth. So I hope that answers your question.
Any questions?
Your Honor, I had a question. Mark, could you talk about some of the incidents where we have multiple incidents at once, like a bank robbery and some other thing going on, and how you handle that?
we've had multiple robberies that occur at once. And to be quite honest with you, we have incidents where we'll have shoplifters that are running, okay? And you'll have, sometimes I imagine you have those in Brentwood too, where they'll run out of the store. And you have a chase going on. Well, anytime you have a chase going on, generally a foot chase, okay, they're running to them here or there, it gets a lot of people involved. Okay, and you can have multiple incidents like that. Now, is it a big thing? Not necessarily, but you have a lot of chatter going on the radio because it's like rabbit in your blood. I know it was with me. I wanted to go and chase them. You want to catch them, okay? But if you have like a bank robbery that comes down, or you have a building search that goes down at the same time. On a building search, when you have the officers go in there, we'll hold the station, and we won't. You know what I mean? And we'll ask them to hold their traffic. If during that time, for example, Richmond Heights is doing a building search and it's in the middle of the night, we're holding the station, and a serious call comes in for Brentwood, depending upon the nature of the call, what we do is we have the cell phones, or we have the other supervisors for the other jurisdictions. If it's so serious that we don't want to get on the radio, we call them on the phone. If we can't get them on the phone, we'll call them on the radio, we'll tell them to switch over to another channel. If this incident with the building search or something involves, and it involves a long time, we'll actually have a dispatcher open up another channel. There's specific channels that are made for law enforcement out there called the riot channels, where you can take an incident and move it over there, and we'll operate in that environment. But while we're handling that radio emergency, we have other call takers that are there. I mean, there's additional staff and there's additional people to help them and assist them by making phone calls or doing whatever they need to do.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're right.
Yes,
If I may. First off, Brandon, thank you. I believe, and I'm giving you credit for the 2 postcards that were mailed through Brentwood. I love it when people try to get other people involved. I think that's a good thing. Too much apathy and too few people making decisions unfortunately hurt. The problem is the postcard is a 3x5, so not all the information gets to get out. I've received a number of phone calls from residents. I've received a number of emails. I have tried to respond to almost all of them. I won't say I got them all to work with. The majority of the concerns that I've received is response times. And I'll agree with you. I too do not want somebody showing up later when I need them in a hurry. We've requested from the city of Brentwood their time logs. What I received was basically 20 calls were taken over an 11-day period. It does not tell me if the calls were police or fire. But based on Brentwood's own information, on those 20 calls over the 11 days, we averaged a 4-minute response time combined. ECDC, in part of their sales program promotion to the board, asked us to take a look at their statistics. They turned around and give us the statistics from January 19th to January 25th. They had 807 phone calls across the week. Doesn't identify if the calls are police or fire, it just says these are the calls that are coming in to work with. Breaks it out by the number of calls per day. So they're looking at somewhere around as low as 89 and as high as 172, depending on what the day is throughout the entire 24-hour period. But they also gave us a sheet that says, here's the 6 communities that we do service. Average time for call receipt to dispatch, response time for call for personnel to the scenes to work with. They give it to us for both the month and for a 12-month rolling average. Working through the numbers, and I'm going to just summarize here for the thing. For Clayton, for the police, 3 minutes, 55 seconds. That's for the full 12-month running average. For Maplewood, 3 minutes, 53 seconds. Total time for the response time for personnel to the scene. Olivet, 4 minutes, 21 seconds. Richmond Heights, for the 12-month average, 4 minutes, 27 seconds. Shrewsbury, 3 minutes, 55 seconds for the full 12-month running average. Webster Groves, 4 minutes, 30 seconds. Now, those are averages. In the Brentwood time log, they told me that the quickest response they had was 1 minute, and the slowest response they had was 6-minute calls that they had for response time from call entered per first person on the scene. The statistics help support that both facilities give you a fair, reasonable, safe response. The trick is look at worst case scenario. If I've got an accident on Highway 40, how many of us are carrying cell phones? Used to be that maybe somebody would pull off the highway and call. Out of 100 cars going by with you, probably 30 are going to hit the phone and say, by the way, there's an accident on Highway 40. Somebody's got to answer those calls. If you have one person or two people, can you do it safely? Or do you end up getting that person that calls in and says, by the way, my husband just collapsed on the kitchen floor, and you get confused and they don't get the quickest response? If I overload a dispatcher and make a mistake, it could cost somebody's life. You and I don't want that to happen. The St. Louis County 911 system came out of a tax vote, went to the citizens. It passed on a 71.3% acceptance on the first time out of the box. They sold it with St. Louis County telling everybody we wanted everybody to be able to talk with each other. If you have a whole bunch of independent dispatching centers, you are tying up channels. If you consolidate, you've got one main facility talking to groups that get mutual aid to get the right people there. You open time frames where the channels are open for the dispatchers without stepping on each other. Yes, it is a cost issue. If you want to spend $660,000, you've got a total of 7 dispatchers working, 2 on each shift except for Sundays, and the morning shift from midnight to 6 a.m., you've got 1 here in Brentwood. If we have a major problem and overload that person, you might be the person that gets lost and delayed. The city goes, I can turn around and put an 8th dispatcher and make it 2 on each shift, but I'm going to spend $700,000+ in salary and benefits to put 2 on each shift all the way across the board. That doesn't sound like it's the best way to go. This group's offering to give you that extra personnel to help sort through and give you the best response and save you $300,000 in the process. The board has to look at, I've got 7 dispatchers that have worked very hard and long for the city of Brentwood. I don't want to hurt and lose them. I also have 9 firefighters and EMS people and 5 police officers every single shift here on the streets of Brentwood. I've got to make sure that they too have the best coverage and somebody's got their back. It's not always the easiest decision. The board has wrestled with it. We are not unified, unfortunately, to make a unanimous decision. Yes, we've wrestled with it, and yes, we fought with each other over it. I hope that the board makes a really good decision for everybody in the city of Brentwood.
Good.
Mark, thank you for taking the time to educate me.
Okay, thank you. Lee, did you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say it, make sure everybody understands that I'm a longtime resident also. I became 80 years old this year, been on the board 20-something years, and taught school here for a long time. And I really have a concern for making sure that we get the best possible. I got a wife, 73, we've been married 50 years. Listen, I would do anything. I love her very much, as most of you know. If I thought that what we were going to do was going to go downhill, I wouldn't do that. I would take care of her no matter what. I, like Andy, think when you put it all together, it does make sense. And I will be voting for it. There's one other thing. I know some of you are going to be angry, and I can understand that because, you know, you got lives tied up in this. We all do. And that's all right, too. I think you've got, you know, we all have to work through our feelings. But when if whatever happens tomorrow, see somebody on the street, I hope that we will remain the friends if we have been friends, just because a vote shouldn't change that at all. And I just want to end up by saying that I do care about Brentwood. Lord have mercy, when I leave this earth, I'm going to spend most of my life here serving this city. And I take that very strongly.
Thank you. Anthony?
If I understood correctly, the way it's set up at ECDC, there's a board made up of city administrators. So if there's an issue, that they get together and work on the issue. One of my concerns is, in that situation, we have equal say, but with our own dispatchers, we have the total say. So I've seen, and everyone else on this board has seen how bureaucracy works. And it's not
Give us
pretty.
an example.
Yeah, it's not pretty. So that's one of my concerns, is going to something to where you're going to have to rely on city administrators from other communities who are looking out for their community's best interests and weighing it against how pressing is our issue. Whereas the way it's set now, if we have an issue, it can be taken care of that day. We don't have to have a meeting and get a consensus. And then my other concern is, if we were to go to ECDC, once we've gotten rid of our dispatchers, I think someone at one of the meetings brought up, there's no going back. So if we went there and, God forbid, there was huge issues and it just doesn't work out, we don't have an option at that point. One of my other issues is, and I hate saying this in public session, but part of the issue with going to ECDC, they won't provide a certain service that our dispatchers do as far as security and monitoring of our meetings and the court meetings. After the Kirkwood incident, the city came up with ideas on how to better protect us from tragic incidents, and it's my understanding ECDC will not provide that same service. So I think
that was never brought up. No. Could it be with your jail monitoring system?
I'm sorry. Yeah, well, go ahead, Anthony.
So, I mean, that's another one of my concerns, is that seems to have gotten somewhere lost in the mix, that, you know, I'm not just looking out for my own welfare, it's everyone up here, because you can see what a lunatic can do. But we have that added security, knowing that this meeting's being monitored and someone in a second can have a total response here. So those are just three of the issues that are concerning to me, along with, you know, no matter how you look at it, if you throw in another police and fire department in with several other, the radio traffic is increased. I mean, that's just a given. And I don't think that that's best for our public servants. So that's why I'll be voting against it.
Okay. Alderman Kramer?
Yes, Your Honor. I think each of us have done our own amount of research or analysis of this particular topic. Public safety is extremely important. And yes, we do all live here, and some of us, or most of us, have loved ones that live here as well. I particularly take this seriously. I try to research everything that I vote on as best I can. This was no stranger to that type of analysis. I actually went to the dispatch center not once but twice. I spent time interviewing the individuals, researching the service provided, researching the other municipalities that currently receive this service and have for the last, some of them, most of them, 10 years. I saw some things that I didn't know about, and I confirmed some things that I perhaps thought that I heard the first time and wanted to go back and hear for a second time to make sure. This is very serious, and it's also important for me to echo the comments of Alderman Leahy regarding the livelihoods of our existing staff and service providers. I hope that none of them think for a second that any of us take this decision lightly or haven't wrestled with this or, yes, even fought amongst ourselves or amongst other people about this topic. I've received several phone calls, texts, messages, emails, and corresponded with many people over this topic since we first began discussing it. And actually going back in time, this is not the first time that it's come up. I want to make sure that the gentlemen who are kind enough to come this evening from the other cities want to thank you so much for spending time to come our direction. I know that you probably have better things to be doing tonight. This has been quite a long, extensive evening. In that mind and spirit, I'd like to offer the opportunity, if you'd like to introduce yourselves and perhaps briefly give us your experience with the ECDC. That's not necessary, but if you'd like to, please feel invited. But Your Honor, I'm just echoing, I guess, our others, and I feel it's important for us to speak, if so compelled, that we do take this personally. This is not an easy thing. And yes, money does come into the decision. That's part of our job. It's our fiduciary responsibility to look at that topic as well. This is a significant difference, and we have to take that into consideration. As well, the personalized service and the differences that have been brought up in that vein as well. With that, Your Honor, my comments are completed.
Okay.
Just want to add something.
Just maybe if the chiefs want to just at least introduce yourselves, and if you could, please. So.
My name is Terry Merrill. I'm the fire chief of the Maplewood Fire Department. I'm in my 20th year with Maplewood, and I was 10th with ECDC.
Chief Mark Thorpe with the City of Clayton Fire Department, 31 years and 10 years with ECDC.
My name is Kerry Hogan. I grew up in the city of Richmond Heights, worked for the city fire department for going on 36 years, and been the fire chief for the last going on 5 years. I've seen a lot of changes from the way we used to dispatch to the way we do it now, and I definitely would not go back to that. And I'm very happy with what ECDC does.
Thank you.
Thanks. Alderman Saunders.
We have one more.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Oh, I didn't say sorry.
Yes, I'm sure.
Great.
Chief Roy Wright from Richmond Heights Police Department. I've been with the police department for 40 years. I started as a dispatcher. And I would tell you that I have seen changes over the course of the 40 years. And I would tell you that all the time that we've been involved in ECDC, it works very well for us. And what you decide to do is up to you, but I will tell you it works very well.
My name is Kevin Murphy. I'm the acting chief of the Clayton Police Department. I have 37 years in law enforcement and 10 years with ECDC. And as Chief Wright said, I'm sure it's an emotional issue for everybody here. I think there's been a lot of thoughtful conversation regarding ECDC or the pros and cons. I can only speak for the city of Clayton and for the Clayton Police Department. We're happy with the decision that we made 10 years ago, and if it's a decision that you folks feel that is in the best interest of all, we'd be happy to have you as part of ECDC. Thank you.
Thank you.
And sorry about that. I didn't see you two back there. Sorry. Alderman Saunders.
I was going to just add that, I agree that safety is key. I mean, I've said this at my ward meetings, and the three primary responsibilities of us up here at the board in the city is safety, sanitation, and streets. Those are our three primary. So I was concerned that when we had the sports attic and these listening to that, in the past, we've only had one dispatcher on duty, why the board didn't take action to hire another dispatcher. That concerns me. And I know it's cost, but I would eliminate, and I'm not anti-Brentwood, but I mean, I would look at Brentwood days and that, because to me, safety is the #1 priority, and those other two things, and the other stuff is fluff. So, if we can afford it all, that's great, but safety is what I would look at first. And then also when Alderman Leahy was talking about the stats, once again, that too comes from the board. If you don't ask if you don't ask to see those stats or you don't ask your city to keep those stats, you're not going to have them. Just like for me, the accounting system is a little bit antiquated for my taste. I think it should be updated because I can't get certain reports in this technological age. But if you're not asking for them, it starts at this level, you're not going to get it. So it's not fair to fault them for not having stats that we haven't asked them to keep and asked them to get them in such a short time frame. So I think we need to keep, you know, those things in mind. And then the other thing, and I know everyone, you know, was very upset when I said this again, but, you know, this board wasn't willing to do a compensation survey to start looking at cost. I mean, it's better to remain competitive in our compensation and keep jobs than to get way out of range with our salaries, because we are going to eventually have to add more people as businesses grow and there's more and more things that we need to do for our residents. So.
Okay. Tui?
Looking at this process, you know, we've seen a lot of other services that ECDC provides, such as the reports, the timing of the how fast they receive calls, the medical assist. I guess for me, why I favor ECDC is that we've seen lots of services that we're not doing, and I've heard people say, well, Brentwood could start doing that, but my concern is why aren't we already ahead in doing those processes now? I think the reason, it's no one's fault, we just don't have the manpower to have someone be a full-time manager over the process. This group does. They stay out in front of the best services, the best technology, and I just don't see that we've been able to do that. So that's why I favor this. But I do hope if we do pass this, I really hope we make a great effort to take care of the dispatchers who serviced us for years, and I think they should really get a handsome severance package, because it's not fair what's happened to them. These are human beings, and we've been dangling with them in the wind, and this affects their lives, and I think we need to show all the employees, if we make a change, we take care of the people that serviced us for years.
Good.
Just one other procedural question. Someone mentioned a letter that was sent to public safety? Or did I miss that?
There was no letter sent to public safety. There was a conversation with the chair of public safety.
Okay. Typically, wouldn't something like this come through public safety and then go to the full board?
We voted to not do it that way. We voted not to do it. We voted for the board to do it.
Well, I think originally when the proposal was brought, you mean the proposal from ECDC, when it was originally sent to the city, what the direction was from a staff standpoint was to have the chiefs actually do their due diligence to see if there was something that they wanted to move forward with, if their recommendation would have been to move forward with. So that's when they started that process, and then decided, that's when we had the meeting in first meeting in January, was really for them to come forward and give us their recommendation at that point, whether they wanted the board to you know, consider that. So,
I have one other question. This is just a technical. In the agreement, it says that ECDC shall cooperate with the City of Brentwood in applying for reimbursement of its startup costs related to participation in ECDC, and to the extent necessary, shall join in any such applications. Any startup costs which exceed actual reimbursement received from St. Louis County and E911 will be the responsibility of the City of Brentwood. I didn't realize that we were going to have any costs. That was the understanding, was that the $350,000 would go. But if there is any extra, then we do have to pay it for moving?
We don't anticipate that there will be any additional cost. There's that 70% of the total cost that ECC would reimburse the city. We've priced it out, and we believe that the savings that we would get from applying for that grant would cover that cost. That's why that language is written as it is. And we would partner jointly with EC to put that application together for submittal.
And then do we still have to upgrade our equipment at our own dispatch too, in addition to what needs to be done there?
No, not if the decision is to go to ECDC.
Okay, but they talked about maintaining one person. I guess that was just to help process
That's just an
records.
administrative person.
And then the other thing too was that nobody will be in the building then anymore except for prisoners monitored remotely.
Right.
Okay.
Your Honor, if I may. Your
Honor.
If I may ask for a little bit further clarification, staying with the same point. Is there not a cost to the City of Brentwood to put in the video monitoring arrangements if we choose to assign that to ECDC also? Isn't that cost above and beyond
No.
switching.
No.
That's inclusive.
We're going to include that in the grant application and ask for reimbursement for
Okay.
that cost.
Okay, thank you.
And just so for clarification, because I heard a couple moans with respect, currently, really the operation of monitoring the prisoners won't change any more than it is today. Right now, our dispatchers monitor the prisoners in their cell, and if there's any issues with an unhappy customer or guest, then they call one of the police officers and they come to the station and go in and take care of that prisoner. The same type of monitoring will be taking place if we go to ECDC. Their dispatchers will monitor the prisoners over video camera. Again, they're not equipped to go in and take care of any prisoner, so they would then notify Brentwood Police that they need to go to the station to address that situation. So it would be no different than it is today from that respect. So, Alderman Harper.
But, and as a side note to that, not to be flippant, but if you've been to a personal safety training and they've told you if you're being followed or something to go to a police department, the message should be don't go to Brentwood because no one will be there.
And Ladue, Chief, that was one of the reasons that their aldermen wanted to stay with, is that they just felt it was important to have somebody in the building.
Mayor Kelly.
Yes.
The comment was made earlier that going to ECDC, we would no longer have the ability to have this room monitored during court sessions or during meetings like that. That is not an accurate statement. The Exhibit A, participation agreement, references front entrance lobby, city council chamber, panic buttons in city hall, so that service will continue to be offered.
It wasn't a mistake. I think he
If
agreed
you,
with it.
if you saw the screens over there, I mean, they're going to
ran this
have, I
past the city
mean,
manager.
4
We went
screens.
there
I don't know
today,
how
and
they're going to
there's
monitor.
clearly a difference. We went over to East Central today, and then we went over to Brentwood. Just to observe, we didn't make an appointment. They were very accommodating. They were very, very friendly, and talking to us and letting us come in and showing us the inner workings, and they did a great job. But there was clearly a difference between the amount of phones ringing at East Central than when we went to Brentwood, and the amount of phones ringing at Brentwood. And I mean, there's no, in my mind, there's no doubt when you're talking about 6 cities versus the 2 cities we have now, I don't understand why we can't come up with some kind of a plan or an idea where we could work something out where there's not only one dispatcher. That seems to be the main concern, and the main concern is with the fire department. And again, the fire department being, what did the gentleman say, 4% of the calls are fire, 15% ambulance. I mean, the majority of the calls are from the police department, and it makes me very leery that we're going to completely dissolve our dispatch center when this much of it works for this much. That seems to be a problem that we can't seem to maybe work something out. So that's why I'm not in favor of this.
Second reading, please.
Second reading, Bill Number 5835 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator to enter into and execute a participation agreement on behalf of the city of Brentwood, Missouri with East Central Dispatch Center and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Thank you. A motion, please.
So moved.
And second?
Second, Your Honor.
Motion made by Alderman Nguyen, second by Alderman Robertson. Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper?
No.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister?
No.
Alderwoman Saunders?
No.
Okay.
Bill number 5835 is now ordinance number 4498.
Can we take a break?
Thank you.
It's like, oh, that's strong.
Sure, let's take a 3-minute break.
Oh, 3 minutes. No, there's only one bathroom.
Oh, okay, sorry. 5-minute break.
My goodness, 3 minutes. Please.
That's not.
same people showing up at your door. Hey, real quick, so what's in the south side roofing building? It is, Did you tell me already? I don't know exactly name. But what do they do? You know? See, I thought it had something to do with like mixing sounds or whatever, but whatever. And then I think, I was just curious.
No pitchforks and torches
No, it's not.
tonight.
It don't. It's not that big. So.
Good, gravy, I hope so.
Thanks.
Well, I'm really glad I had dinner. Dinner. I tried to have a little bit early too, so it doesn't walk in with it. This is all old stuff. I came here this morning at 7 o'clock and got my stuff, and there's all kinds of stuff in there. Back here now. Okay, let's get it done. Well, South 40 will be buzzing today about how we ignored the citizens' will.
I know.
Endangered babies and old people. Oh yeah, Channel 5.
Just gonna exit.
Oh, that's not candy. That's an energy bar, Lee. See?
Energy? I don't know whatever it is. Need to increase the size of the bathrooms.
Yeah, it's got calories, all right.
I thought about that after I said 3 minutes. Somebody goes,
There's a line.
Yeah, there were actually.
and a lot of that was staff. All right. Where are
It's
we?
gonna cool down a little bit.
How about first reading of,
We're missing.
I know,
Alderman Lake.
just one.
He's talking to someone. You want to join us?
Ship of state sails on, I say.
Okay. We're going to do a couple readings, Anthony, or Andy. First reading of bill number 5838.
6?
Or 5836.
36?
Oh, I'm sorry, 30.
Whatever it was.
You're right, I'm sorry, 36.
First reading bill number 5836 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator to exercise an option on behalf of the city of Brentwood, Missouri to extend its contract with State Mechanical Services, Inc. for a Brentwood Recreation Complex refrigeration HVAC heat recovery system service contract for 1 year commencing on April 9, 2014, and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Synopsis, please.
Yes, Your Honor, it's pretty similar. Bill 5836, contract extension for refrigeration, HVAC, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and heat recovery services to the Brentwood Recreation Complex. Current contract expires April 9, 2014. We have an option for a 1 year extension. Public Works Committee has recommended, after reviewing this recommendation, for a 1 year extension.
Okay. Any questions? Second reading, please.
Second reading, bill number 5836 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator to exercise an option on behalf of the city of Brentwood, Missouri to extend its contract with State Mechanical Services, Inc. for a Brentwood Recreation Complex refrigeration HVAC heat recovery system service contract for 1 year commencing on April 9, 2014, and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Okay. Have a motion, please.
I move for adoption, Your Honor.
Second. Motion is made by Alderman Robertson, second by Alderman Nguyen, to perfect bill number 5836 into ordinance form. Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderman Manister?
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes.
Bill number 5836 is now ordinance number 4499.
Thank you. First reading of bill number 5837.
First reading, bill number 5837, title only, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator to enter into and execute an agreement on behalf of the city of Brentwood, Missouri with Vogel Heating and Cooling and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Okay. Synopsis, please.
Your Honor, Bill 5837, the HVAC, Heating, Ventilation, Air Conditioning, Maintenance, and Mechanical Services Bill, covers an ordinance authorizing our mayor or city administrator to execute an agreement with Vogel Heating and Cooling. That's for the HVAC maintenance and mechanical services and routine preventative maintenance, seasonal startups, and inspections of those HVAC systems here at City Hall. Also the Police Department, Public Works Department, the Post Office, Historical Society, BZB Building at Memorial Park, and Norm West Park Building. Our Public Works Committee has reviewed and recommended approval of Bill 5837.
Okay. Any questions? Second reading, please.
Second reading, Bill number 5837 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator to enter into and execute an agreement on behalf of the city of Brentwood, Missouri with Vogel Heating and Cooling and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Do you have a motion, please?
Motion to perfect Bill 5837 into ordinance form, Your Honor.
You have a second?
Second.
Motion was made by Alderman Lay, second by Alderman Nguyen. Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister?
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes.
Bill number 5837 is now ordinance number 4500.
Thank you. First reading of bill number 5838.
First reading, Bill number 5838 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator to enter into and execute an agreement on behalf of the city of Brentwood, Missouri with Cunningham Recreation and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Synopsis, please.
Yes, Your Honor. The subject of an earlier presentation, Bill 5838, the Oak Tree Park Playground Proposal Design. This bill covers an ordinance authorizing our mayor or city administrator, the city of Brentwood, to execute an agreement with Cunningham Recreation. That's for the design and installation of a new playground at our Oak Tree Park. This is a capital improvement project approved in the 2014 budget. Public Works Committee for the city of Brentwood recommends awarding the project to Cunningham Recreation. That's in the amount of $249,986.41, with an additional contingency of $17,499 for change orders with the approval of our city administrator. Contingency for unforeseeable circumstances and conditions encountered during the project is also included with this Bill 5838.
Your Honor.
Alderman Lay.
Bola, forgive me, but keep me at least clear. We authorize and pass this bill. We authorize that the city administrator can work with the rec department, and if change notices happen, you all authorize them. But you would put it in your weekly report to us saying, by the way, this has an overrun.
Absolutely.
And then in December, we'd look at doing a full budget amendment to cover if the cost so justified it.
Exactly.
Thank you. Just want to make sure I know how the process works.
Alderwoman Saunders.
How do you know you're not dipping into your reserves?
Well, you know, throughout the year, we do have savings, so we hope that that's the case. That was the case, obviously, last year. And then at times, there are funds that we budget that we don't completely spend, so we're going to be mindful of that throughout the year.
Well, I just have always made the argument that you should bring, when you're going to go over a budget, that instead of waiting till the end of the year, you should bring that forward, because the idea is where we go under budget, hopefully we're able to put that much more money in reserves. And if we're going to go over, we have to decide exactly where we're going to take the money from, or
it would be from that same fund.
It'd be some same fund.
From capital improvement.
And again, the reason you don't do that is because, you know, you have multiple, and I'll just use capital improvement projects, or you have multiple things within that budget. You may go over on one and save on another, and at the end of the year, you make those adjustments, and then, you know, if you need to increase that a little bit, that's when you would make a budget amendment. You know, but it would still come out of the capital improvement fund, and specifically that one is over the fund, the reserve fund amount anyway, but, right.
if the change order is like an excavating type issue, you know, you hit something, I don't know what, or oil, I mean, the pipes, you know, like we had all that trouble with Thornton property up there, you know, there's something there. It's over the $10,000 threshold. Wouldn't we have to bid? Because they probably have to subcontract that.
I don't want to presume that, because I am not a construction contractor, so I wouldn't know. But if they're the ones that we've approved the project for, and they already have let's say, subcontractors that are working for them. It's still the primary contractor that we're still dealing with. We shouldn't be involved in going back out and subcontracting pieces of a project.
No. I mean, I assume that they would have to come back, but still, if they're going to have to use someone else, do you think then they'll subcontract and we're just going to go ahead and approve it?
Because they're the primary contractor.
Yeah.
We're dealing with
We're
them.
going to get billed by their contractor. We're going to get billed by them. They will bill the subs.
Right. That's how most projects work.
Have you, in the past, can I ask the senior alderman, do you normally have change orders built in your contracts that you accept for bid?
In my 22 years' experience, we have in other places where I've worked, so this is nothing new to me. But I don't know whether you all have actually been informed, but it happens. It does
It
happen.
has, and I would say, I mean, but
bridge.
to answer your question, no. Have we done a separate one for the cities to administrator to act? No. But I think, like the city administrator, you know, probably sometimes those things happen, and then we were just told that they needed to make the change order, that they were having that additional expense. Did we actually put in an ordinance like this? No, I don't think we did.
I think you all can rest assured that sometimes I overkill with the information. So you shouldn't be alarmed that anything's going to skip you by.
This is proactive.
Exactly.
Oh, no, and I see the information. I think I would feel better if it was under the 10,000 threshold, but.
Well, the bill that we did with the bridge going over Strassner with Metrolink had contingency change order built into it, because that's how the county and Metro wrote it to us. But that's the only one that I can think of in the last 12 years that we've literally put in an override.
Well, and again, that goes back to the way the bid was. The
Yeah.
contractor built in a contingency in building that
Yeah.
project. Actually, that wasn't Brentwood, that was the TDD that paid for that. But they, you know, and again, the contractor has a contingency, I'm sure, in his bid for his own comfort. What the city administrator is asking for now is, you know, just to give her the comfort that if something comes up at the last minute, we're able to just keep moving forward instead of having a delay, and because you're going to have to do it at that point. It's just a matter of, you know, and if it goes above that level, then we'd have to come back and reassess. But, you know, so, right. Okay. Second reading?
Second reading, bill number 5838 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator to enter into and execute an agreement on behalf of the city of Brentwood, Missouri with Cunningham Recreation and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Motion?
Motion to perfect Bill 5838 into ordinance form.
A second, Your Honor.
We had a first and a second. Roll call?
Alderman Harper?
No.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderman Bannister?
No.
Alderwoman Saunders?
No.
Bill number 5838 is now ordinance number 4501.
Okay. First reading of bill number 5839.
First reading, bill number 5839 by title only, an ordinance of the city of Brentwood, Missouri, repealing City of Brentwood ordinance number 4450 and adopting a new table of permit fees, inspection fees, and other related fees, providing for the current maintenance of this code, providing for the effective date of this ordinance, and providing for the repeal of all conflicting ordinances.
Okay. Synopsis, please.
Your Honor, Bill 5839 covers a permit fee table for our city of Brentwood. August of last year, actually 2013, staff presented the Public Works Committee with a revised permit fee table. After adoption of Ordinance 4450, which detailed the permit fees, discovered that some fees and permits were inadvertently omitted. As a matter of housekeeping, it was suggested that a complete amendable table be forwarded for adoption to the city's Board of Aldermen. Our Public Works Committee has re-reviewed the contents of the proposed permit fee table in Bill number 5839.
Alderman Saunders?
Yes, the issue is meeting the criteria of Resolution 1003, and I don't agree with the notion, with Brentwood Forest, because the decks, you have to choose, like, you know, there's only 4 or 5 plans. There's only 4 or 5 different types of decks that can be done. So when it was brought before Public Works, we agreed, since each plan didn't have to be evaluated, like my personal deck on my house, that we would give them a reduced rate. And it was going to be the $50 and the $75. And that was the benefit of inspector only having to say, okay, I've got this set of plans, they're picking this set of plans, therefore we get a reduced rate. But then it came back that each building, when they were doing the decks on a building, that we would only charge them one permit fee. But we have to issue a permit for each deck because they own the decks. The condo association, takes care of them, maintains them, but the owners own the individual decks, and they're each separate decks. I mean, it's not like one big deck so that when you walk out and you have access, it's one deck and one permit fee. Each address has its own separate deck, and therefore you have to go and inspect that deck. And I could maybe see if there was a trip charge involved, like because they're going to the Brentwood Forest area, you'd give them a reduced rate, like cut a little bit off because of making one trip. But with Brentwood, trip charges aren't an issue. Going to each house, should I get a break because my neighbor and I do our decks at the same time? And Brentwood Forest hasn't paid permit fees in the past because there was, as Alderman Kramer said, oversight. They didn't know they were supposed to get permits. And so I feel like we've already been generous in giving them the $50 reduced rate, but that since each deck has to have a permit fee and each deck has to have an inspection, they should each owner, it'll go through the condo association, but each permit should be charged the permit fee.
I want to voice a bit of a different take. This whole point of this, it's not to generate revenue for the city or punish people for doing decks. It's pure cost recovery to enforce safety. So to your point, but if you and your neighbor were doing this, let's say you and 6 of your neighbors are actually all going to go in and have your decks done at the same time, it wouldn't bother me if you took a cost reduction, if you all had the same deck plan, because it's less work for our city employees to do. But that's not realistic. It doesn't really fit the residential neighborhoods. But for Brentwood Forest, if you're taking one person, one trip, and quickly look at 6 decks that are basically all the same thing, they shouldn't have to pay a fee for repetitive work over and over. Let's simplify compared to the residential neighborhoods. I
disagree because decks aren't that different, and you're basically looking, each one you have to inspect how it's attached to the unit, you have to inspect the handrails, you have to inspect the joints and the joists underneath, and it's the same process with a deck on a home. It's not rocket science, it's, decks are decks. I mean, we don't have the homes where we can have multi-layer decks and everything, so I don't know. And there's a fee anyway. The more elaborate the plans, per $1,000, the fee goes up for an individual homeowner. So they are paying for that individualized inspection.
Justin, on a, if you could, please. On a typical residential, how is it calculated for a residential deck?
Based off of the cost of the deck. I think one of the points that's important to maybe clarify a little bit, the way our inspection fees are set up, we do not charge a review fee for permits. That fee is essentially built into our inspection fee. And so it all gets kind of done as one. So any sort of a change to however the board would want to move forward with this, essentially what the proposal you have in front of you right now, the main point that it says is we're only having to review these decks once. So all the time, the staff time, that's, the review fee is generally, if you go to different municipalities, it's assumed to be about 65% of the total permit fee. So about 65% of our time and our money and our expenses as a department is removed because they only have the 4 decks or how many ever. And as long as they stick to that pre-approved plan, that's where our savings as a department come in.
So then each unit is paying a processing fee of $25 and then the inspection fee for $25, but the building is only paying $50 for the repairs. Is that how it works?
It depends on how they come in. If they come in for an individual deck, or if they come in for, hey, we're going to do this entire building, because that's where you get to your idea of a trip charge. It's not explicitly put in, but it says if you come in for the entire building, we still have to go out there, right?
Right, but you just said that the inspection fee is separate from the permit fee.
No. What I said is we do not have a separate plan review fee versus a separate permit or inspection fee. We just have one generic fee that covers the whole process, essentially, is how it essentially comes in to be when they pay their bill.
finish that process, so if they came in from a building or one deck, to explain that. So how you're going to structure the fee. So if they come in with the plans for an entire building opposed to one deck.
Right.
Go ahead.
So if they come in for an
there's 8
entire.
decks, let's say, though, or 6 decks on it.
One at a time, please. If they were to come in for one building versus one deck, it's essentially the same process on our end. We're going to treat them the same. We're going to say, hey, they're using the pre-approved, deck A on, this building. They go out, we've already reviewed the plans, so we issue the permit. We go out, we do the inspection. Whether it's one deck or 5 decks, it's the same process.
Would you have
But
to
would it
issue
be
a
then the
permit
same
for
price,
each
though?
one?
It would then be the same price.
Correct.
Okay. I just want to verify.
There's economy of scale if the condo association decides to continue maintaining the properties in a group arrangement as a single condo. Now, the other hiccup is second to last point. All decks associated with the permit, even if it's a full building, all have to be inspected at the same time. So you bring your inspector out, everything's good. If you get your inspector out there, but you've only got 2/3 of the work done and he has to come back for a second,
right,
then I get a second fee in there because they didn't get that far.
Right.
Which fee do you get, though? The deck
The
permit
inspection
fee
fee.
or the inspection fee?
You'd
That
be the
makes no
inspection,
sense.
you're gonna bring the guy back out.
Right.
What he's inspecting is the footings and that the thing was attached correctly to the building.
Okay,
And
then
I'll
what
let
I
him do
want to
that.
ask, though, is the processing fee, because that's the typing up the permit, the actual physical permit. You're asking for a permit for each deck on the building. Do they get charged the $25 processing fee for each permit?
That would not be charged for each permit issue.
Why? That's the processing, though. The processing of a permit is getting the permit, actually, your time.
But I
to
think what
type
just
it
say
in.
is 60% of that normally would be the actual review to make sure that the plans meet code.
Right.
The review part.
Right.
Then,
To answer
I'm
your
just
question,
saying, right.
but the
if the association-
individuals is $6 per $1,000. That's their review fee. That's
Well,
their
that's their
review
total
fee. They
permit
still
and
got to pay a
review, right?
$25 processing fee.
If
Brand new plan.
Brentwood Forest.
I'm sorry, there's so
Okay,
many
yeah,
conversations I can't keep up with
So
everything.
if I turn in a deck for my house, I'm going to pay $6 per $1,000
Plus a 25 processing fee,
plus the 25. But that's, I think,
plus an inspection fee.
you're done?
I just want to make sure you got them all.
I'm trying to get there.
Okay.
But it would take me then, again, I would have to have almost a $6,000 deck to get to that $50 fee.
Right.
Right. So, anyway, I don't know. I tend to agree that if you're going out there and making, 6 different inspections, then, the city should be compensated for that fee. I mean, that is but, I think maybe it's something that maybe the department should be able to look at and see if that becomes an issue. I mean, if this is one building each summer, then,
And when this was at Public Works, I believe in 2013, I believe there were 13 deck permits.
Yep.
So, I mean, we're not talking, on a revenue scale, from, just the reality of running the department, this isn't a make it or break it item for
No,
us.
but they haven't paid for
but-
years, too. They haven't paid for years, too. They've not.
Well, right.
But this isn't designed to punish.
And we've gotten them into the process, and they're fully compliant at this point. And that's our main drive, is to get them and get compliant, safe decks on those structures. So yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
I'd like to move for adoption, please.
Did we have second reading? Or wait, we already had a motion, didn't we?
No, we haven't had our second reading.
Okay,
yet.
second reading.
I'll wait for it.
Second reading, Bill number 5839 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Brentwood, Missouri, repealing City of Brentwood Ordinance 4450 and adopting a new table of permit fees, inspection fees, and other related fees, providing for the current maintenance of this code, providing for the effective date of this ordinance, and providing for the repeal of all conflicting ordinances.
Okay. Motion, please.
Move for adoption, Your Honor.
And second?
Second, Your Honor.
We have first and second, roll call.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister?
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders?
No.
Bill number 5839 is now ordinance number 4502.
Okay?
I'm sorry.
Bills number 5840 through
4502.
Thank you.
40, I'm sorry.
4502.
No, the bills.
Ordinance number.
58
I'm sorry.
4502.
58.
I'm sorry.
No. I got ahead of you, sorry.
I thought,
All right,
No,
sorry.
I see.
No, you're right.
I know.
I went too fast. All right, so, sorry. Bill number 5840 through 5854 all deal with, this is for public knowledge, all deal with temporary easements on the properties lining Litzinger Boulevard or Litzinger Avenue for the new sidewalk pedestrian project that we'll be doing in the city of Brentwood. The reason I'm saying this, we're not going to read the synopsis each time for these ordinances. Matter of fact, I don't even think we're going to read it once because I'm just explaining what it is. So, but we do have to read each ordinance by name because of their specific addresses. So, with that, we will go right through these first and second readings. So, first and second, or first reading.
First reading, Bill number 5840 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary construction easement agreement between the City of Brentwood and Midwest Trust Company of Missouri, trustees of the Mary R. Darst Revocable Living Trust, UTD, providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Okay. Second reading, please.
Second reading, Bill number 5840 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary construction easement agreement between the City of Brentwood and Midwest Trust Company of Missouri, trustees of the Mary R. Darst Revocable Living Trust, UTD, and providing for the effective date of this agreement.
Alderman Kramer would like to read the synopsis one time. So,
I just think it's appropriate, but just one time. Bill 5840 through 5854, this is the Brentwood-Litzinger Road project, roughly going to the west from your favorite Walgreens store there on the corner. This project consists of new sidewalk, curbs, and resurfacing of Litzinger Road from Brentwood Boulevard to McKnight. Of the 42 parcels impacted by the project, 14 ordinances and temporary construction easement agreements are presented for passage. The Surface Transportation Program, STP, grant will cover 80% of the right-of-way acquisition costs, with a 20% funding by our city of Brentwood, 25% of that funded by the city of Rock Hill.
Alderman Lay.
These different pieces of property,
Microphone, please.
I'm sorry, these pieces of property, all along Litzinger, are not all in the city of Brentwood? Some of these are actually in the Rock Hill area, but
Right.
because we're jurisdiction over the properties, we have to get the permission.
Well, the grants.
All of the ordinances that will be before you
Yeah.
as a board will be Brentwood properties.
Only Brentwood, so Rock
The
Hill's
Rock
doing
Hill,
the same thing.
they have a different process, but we're helping facilitate their process. They don't actually require board approval for all of the easement acquisition.
Fascinating.
So,
all right, but
Alderwoman Sanders.
and since it's a federal grant, I understand from BOLA's city administrator detailed report that we have to go through this right-of-way acquisition. Is that a change, though? Like, because when Olive did their, Olive Boulevard did all of their new sidewalks and, put the bike paths and everything, most of their right-of-way was donated, and I thought that was with a grant. Is that a new thing that you just, like, I know you said, because naturally if you offer people money, they're going to take the money.
Right.
But you have to, how does it work, the
Good
right-of-way?
faith effort.
Right.
Pardon me?
Value of the property, and
Well,
some
these are
can
temporary.
donate it if they choose.
Okay,
That's not always the case.
okay, but you still have to give them what the value would be, or tell them what it would be.
we have to tell them what the value, so we hired a
I just
consultant.
want to understand it.
They go out and they say, this is, and we have to present it in writing to them
Right.
saying, this is what the fair market value that a third-party independent consultant has prepared.
Okay.
And we have to make that offer to them.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
Right.
Okay,
And we
great,
have
thank
to
you.
hire, with the federal grants, we have to hire actually a company to do this
Right.
process for us.
Right, I knew we hired
Which, again, in this project is about $80,000, just had that company come, is that right?
I think it was 92.
Yeah, that-
92,000.
I just wanted to know if it had changed.
Yeah,
you
there
know what
is
I
a
mean, if
class
had
that
always been
Missouri
the
Department of
process.
Transportation and East West Gateway puts on every year, where all municipalities, entities that apply for these grant money are required to attend, and they emphasize this point especially.
Okay, great, thank you.
So, okay,
Thank you.
thanks. Done?
Yep.
Motion?
motion to perfect Bill 5840 40 through 58.
No, we got to
We
read
gotta
each
read
bill.
them.
Got to do them one at a time.
We don't have to read the synopsis, we got to read each bill.
Good try.
Good try, Andy.
Motion to perfect.
Actually, go ahead.
I would love to. I was hoping you all would just let me slide.
Second.
Yeah.
Motion to perfect Bill 5840 into ordinance form.
Second.
Roll call.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderwoman Manister?
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes.
Bill number 5840 is now ordinance number 4503.
Okay, 5841.
First reading, Bill number 5841 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary construction easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and Jack H. and Sandra Deathridge.
Second reading.
Second reading, Bill number 5841 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary construction easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and Jack H. and Sandra L. Deathridge.
Move to perfect 5841 into a bill or whatever.
Second.
Getting late.
First and second, roll call.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderwoman Manister?
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes.
Bill number 5841 is now ordinance number 4504.
Your Honor, under Robert's Rules of Order, can we go to passage by acclamation?
Would we have to?
I don't believe so. I think state
Because I have to have a
statute-
at
You
least a
have to have-
5 majority.
Well, I think you have to have a roll call
Well,
vote.
you have
on
to
an
have a roll
ordinance.
call vote.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
Good try, though.
Can't get out of it, Andy.
5842.
First reading, Bill number 5842 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary construction easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and Wayne L. Hill and Linda M. Hill, H.W.
Perfect Bill 5842
No.
into ordinance
Second
form.
reading.
Oh, damn.
Second reading, Bill number 5842 by title only.
Apologize.
An ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary construction easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and Wayne L. Hill and Linda M. Hill.
Go.
Perfect 5842 into ordinance form.
Second.
First and second, roll call.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderwoman Manister?
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes.
Bill number 5842 is now ordinance number 4505.
5843.
First reading, Bill number 5843 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary construction easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and Neil S. Shaw et al.
Second reading.
Second reading, Bill number 5843 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary construction easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and Neil S. Shaw et al.
Perfect 5843 into ordinance form.
Second.
Roll call.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Absolutely.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderwoman Manister?
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes.
Bill number 5843 is now ordinance number 4506.
5844.
First reading, Bill number 5844 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary construction easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and Lan Thi Nguyen and Han Q Nguyen.
Second reading.
Second reading, Bill number 5844 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary construction easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and Lan Thi Nguyen and Han Q Nguyen.
I think that's supposed to be Nguyen and perfect Bill 5844 with the H change to an N in ordinance form.
Oh, the last one?
Second.
You got that?
That is correct.
Okay. Roll call.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderwoman Manister?
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes.
Bill number 5844 is now ordinance number 4507.
Thank you. First reading, Bill number 5845.
First reading, Bill number 5845 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary construction easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and Charlotte Ellis.
Perfect 5845 into
Second reading.
Second reading, Bill number 5845 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary construction easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and Charlotte Ellis.
Perfect Bill 5845 into ordinance form.
Second.
First and second, roll call.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister?
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes.
Bill number 5845 is now ordinance number 4508.
Okay. 5846.
Bill number 5846 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary construction easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and John and Barbara Stretch.
Second reading.
Second reading, bill number 5846 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary construction easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and John and Barbara Stretch.
Perfect Bill 5846 into ordinance form.
Motion to perfect.
Motion to perfect.
That's fine. We got it. That's
Second.
close enough. Roll call.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister?
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes.
Bill number 5846 is now ordinance number 4509.
First reading, 5847.
Bill number 5847 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary construction easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and the Annie Buttry and Robert Buttry Revocable Trust.
Second reading.
Second reading, bill number 5847 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary construction easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and the Annie Buttry and Robert Buttry Revocable Trust.
Motion to perfect Bill number 5847 into ordinance form.
Second.
Second.
Second. We have first and second. Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper?
Could you repeat that? No.
Why, I
Alderman
oughta.
Nguyen?
We're just getting later. Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister?
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes.
Pat?
Bill num-
Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry. You go ahead.
Bill number 5847 is now ordinance number 4510.
I was gonna say, if we went back to the old days where we used to have to read the whole bill, can you
Right.
imagine what a night like tonight would be?
And Anthony, I was going to say, be careful what you ask for. They may actually do it.
Yeah.
It would've been a long.
First reading of bill number 5848.
First reading, bill number 5848 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary construction easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and Grace Litzinger Property LLC.
Second reading.
Second reading, bill number 5848 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary construction easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and Grace Litzinger Property LLC.
Motion to perfect Bill number 5848 into ordinance form.
Second.
We had a first and a second. Roll call.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister?
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes.
Bill number 5848 is now ordinance number 4511.
Was that 49?
No, it was 48.
That was 48.
Shoot. First reading of bill number 5848, or 49.
49.
First reading, bill number 5849 by title
already
only,
checked it off.
an
I
ordinance
thought we could go.
authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary construction easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and Grace Property LLC. Grace Brentwood Property LLC.
Second reading.
Second reading, bill number 5849 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary construction easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and Grace Brentwood Property LLC.
Motion to perfect Bill number 5849 into ordinance form.
Second?
Second.
Well, we can need a second before you discuss.
Second, Your Honor.
Okay, we have first and second. Alderman Leahy.
Your Honor, 5849 and 5850 do talk about two different properties, but the titles are the same. Can we pass both together?
No.
No, they're separate parcels.
Good try.
One's Grace
Roll
Brentwood,
call.
one's Grace Litzinger.
Alderman Harper?
Quit interrupting the process.
That's right.
Roll call.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister? Yes. Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes.
Bill number 5849 is ordinance number 4512.
4850.
First reading, bill number 5850 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary construction easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and Grace Litzinger Property LLC.
Second reading.
Second reading, bill number 5850 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary construction easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and Grace Litzinger Property LLC.
Motion to perfect Bill number 5850 into ordinance form.
Second.
I thought maybe I forgot.
First and a second. Roll call.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister?
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes.
Bill number 5850 is now ordinance number 4513.
Okay. First reading of 5851.
First reading, Bill number 5851 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary construction easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and Ubi and Julie D. Lee.
Say that 5 times fast. Second reading.
Second reading.
Second reading, Bill number 5851 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary construction easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and Ubi and Julie Lee.
Motion to perfect Bill number 5851 into ordinance form.
Second.
Roll call.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderman Bannister?
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes.
Bill number 5851 is now ordinance number 4514.
5852.
First reading, Bill number 5852 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary construction easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and Grace Brentwood Property LLC.
Second reading.
Second reading, Bill number 5852, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary construction easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and Grace Brentwood Property LLC.
Motion?
Motion to move perfect Bill 5852 into ordinance form.
Second.
Roll call.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister?
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes.
Bill number 5852 is now ordinance number 4515.
5853.
First reading, Bill number 5853 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary construction easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and Grace Brentwood Property LLC.
Second reading.
Second reading, Bill number 5853 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary construction easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and Grace Brentwood Property LLC.
Motion to perfect Bill 5853 into ordinance form.
Second.
Roll call.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister?
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes.
Bill number 5853 is now ordinance number 4516.
5845.
First reading, Bill number 5854 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary construction easement agreement between the city of Brentwood, Stephen Johnson, and Eileen Johnson, H.W.
Second reading.
Second reading, Bill number 5854 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary construction easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and Stephen Johnson and Eileen Johnson, H.W.
Motion to perfect Bill number 5854 into ordinance form.
Second.
Roll call.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister?
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes.
Bill number 5854 is now ordinance number 4516.
I want to compliment the board. I think we're moving in the right direction. We just had a 100% unanimous vote on 14 bills in a row.
I did notice that
Limited
some
discussion.
were $1. Did that mean they donated their property?
They
Yeah.
would get $1 for it, yeah.
So I wanted to
Yeah.
thank them or acknowledge those that donated, because there were some individuals in there that I saw was $1.
All-
I was going to make the motion to give Frank and Octavia a round of applause.
I'll second that.
All right. Resolution 1003. Synopsis.
Your Honor, Resolution 1003, the permit fee table for decks, covers a policy on the administration of permit fee tables for decks. Policy would allow multiple decks to be reviewed and inspected under one review fee if a determined set of criteria are met. Our Public Works Committee has reviewed and recommended approval of Resolution 1003.
Okay. Yeah, motion.
Motion to approve Resolution 1003.
Second.
Second.
And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No,
I'm sorry. I could have done a roll call if you want. And-
that's okay. Opposed. as well.
Sorry.
Ask for the opposed.
I did. Opposed? Sorry.
No, oh, yes, I'm opposed.
Sorry. All right. Resolution 1004.
Question, Your Honor.
Alderman Leahy.
I'd like to make amendment to Resolution 1004, please.
Sure. Make your.
Section 1, letter A, all such requests for the placement of signs shall be made in writing. I would request that it be done in advancement of placement of sign.
They're going to fill out the application like normal, right? Yeah, so it would be in writing.
Well, in writing, but they need to do the application before they go put a sign out there.
We
to
we
work
would
with.
never let them do that, but we can put them
This
in here.
resolution wouldn't prevent them from doing it.
That's true.
So I'd like to amend the resolution to add that.
We got it.
Yeah, because they need a permit to put it up, so yeah, I mean, but.
They did it.
Okay.
That's a motion, unfortunately. That has to be a motion.
And a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion to approve the resolution as amended.
Your Honor.
Alderman Kramer.
Octavia, can you get a clarification real quick? We had from bills 5850, 51, 52, and 53, and 54, we went from ordinance number 4513 to 4516 or 17?
17.
I feel like the last one should have been 17.
4517 is.
17.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I thought we had 16 twice.
Good catch.
Thank you.
Okay.
So ordinance number 5854 is ordinance number 4517.
There we go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Motion to perfect bill, resolution 1004 as amended.
And second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Counts against the city?
Yes, Your Honor, we have a warrant list before us in the amount of $182,964.72. And I am recommending approval of the warrant list.
Thank you. And second?
I'll second paying the bills.
Any questions? All in favor of approving the warrant list as submitted, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Under reports of committee and department head, under the mayor's report, I actually have just a couple items. One, I want to thank all the board members for their efforts in their decision-making process with respect to the dispatch center. I know none of us took that decision lightly, and it's important for the community that we have those questions and have those debates. And I do appreciate everybody's opinion and comments with respect to that. The next thing I want to bring up is our next meeting, which is scheduled for the 17th. I would like to cancel that meeting, or 16th, I'm sorry. 17th. I'm going to be out of town that week. The city administrator will actually be out of town as well on a kind of a quick family matter. And so at this point, I would just like to cancel the meeting and then schedule another one if we need one prior to, which we'd have to do that, but it'd be prior to our first meeting in April. So if I get a motion to cancel the.
So moved.
Second,
Cancel
Your
the
Honor.
March 17th, is that? Okay.
That's right near St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, it is St. Patrick's.
That is St. Patrick's Day.
Well,
imagine that.
So thank you.
Yeah.
Well, we should have canceled it anyway. No.
We appreciate that.
Is there any timely business that needs to be addressed?
No, we were trying to get, the
Everything
only thing is
pushed
our
today.
next meeting, there'll be 15 more of these easements, but I think we can wait till April.
We will have the committee meetings that week.
Okay, so we had a first and second.
I didn't hear the second.
Oh, who was the
I'll
second? Okay. Alderman's answer.
Me.
Is there anybody going to object? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Another item, Alderman Leahy had asked me to bring this up, which is with respect to the terms of office. And I think maybe you had mentioned you wanted that put on the agenda.
Yes, I would like to request that the board entertain an ordinance that authorizes to go back to the voters of the citizens of Brentwood the possibility of changing the term of office from 4 years back to a 2-year term.
Okay. Alderman Saunders.
And there's a bill also before the Senate, the House Senate in Missouri, which would give Class 4 cities the right of recall, the petition process. And I think that we should look at that too and encourage the residents to encourage the Senator Bill Lauber to bring that forward, because when I mentioned it to Alderman Leahy, he said, well, then the Boys Hope, Girls Hope could have gone to a vote. But I think it makes you, you don't want the residents to not like your decisions. Not that everything's a popularity vote, but it gives you that where you start educating them early and really kind of educate them and sell them on the direction the city is heading, so that when we make these votes, they're on board and they're with us. And so I think you'd have very few situations where there's a petition, but it does help the residents to feel heard, just as in Maplewood when the Quick Trip, they went ahead and did the petition process, and there's work involved with it. It's not like you can just, everyone's going to put everything to a vote. There is definitely work involved in that. And at the end of the day, they did not win, but they felt heard, and I think they got some concessions made. So it's another thing to look at, and also another form of government, so that we have that right. And, you know, the short terms, 2 years, the reason I didn't want to go to the 4-year terms was because we didn't have the right of recall. But the argument for going to the 4-year terms was the cost of the elections, and then also getting educated in time. And having been a new alderman, moving, we're already having to be ready to get ready for an election is pretty difficult. So, you know, we might even consider a 3-year term.
I just think that I voted for a 2-year term to stay there. Then all of a sudden I had a 4-year term, which some days I wish would have been a 2-year term.
Yeah, yeah.
Amen.
But
Amen.
Remember when I said be careful what you ask for?
Yeah. But I would very much like to see us look at that. I said before I wanted a 2-year term before. I think the more time that people get to have a chance to vote on who you are and what you are, I think it's good.
Right. Why did you vote then to go to 4-year, to put it on the ballot to go to 4-year terms?
You voted against it.
Huh?
Oh.
You voted against it.
I voted against it.
Right.
Oh, okay.
I voted not to put it on there, but it got a vote, and got a big 80%, I think, of the voters.
Yeah,
for
I'm
it.
shocked.
Here's what I would ask that staff draw the necessary ordinances in order to place it. I would suggest we do it on the November ballot. There'll be a pretty good turnout because of the county election. I wouldn't want to do it in an off election. Yep. I did actually have to ask the city attorney to research this a few months ago. And the issue or the concern, well, the process would be, the interpretation is that the alderman decision, in order for the alderman to go back to a 2-year term, would have to go to a vote of the residents. The way the state statute is written, and then for the ballot language that was approved by the voters for the mayor's term, right now the Board of Aldermen could vote to reduce that to a 2-year term. And that doesn't necessarily need to go to a vote of the people. So, you know, and I would actually be in agreement that if the voters agreed, if that's the process, if we could still put them both on the ballot, then I would suggest we do that. If not, you know, I would be in support of a resolution if the voters approved the alderman going back to 4 years, or 2 years, that then we would adopt the ordinance to make the mayor's term 2 years as well. So, so anyway, we will research that and bring the ordinances back in order to put that back on the ballot. Alderman Leahy.
My request was to staff that all elected terms, because that also includes the mayor and the judicial judge, all go back to a 2-year.
Oh, true. It would
but
be the judge.
The resolution is to put it to the voters.
Correct.
To let them make the decision what the right term or what they feel is the best term of office term.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
The wording will be important.
All right. And then one other thing real quick. I know it's getting late, but this is great or good news. And we've been working with, to make a long story short, which I'm not very good at most of the time, but in order to reduce the flooding along Manchester Road, one of the options that we've talked about a number of times over the years has been the creek down at the Deer Creek, south of Manchester. I can see it because I'm used to looking at it, but there's a big bulge in the creek. It's almost 5.5 acres total. Again, to try to shorten the story, one of the options we had talked about previously was trying to take that, it's between the creek and the Webster side, and then the hill that goes up to where the railroad tracks are. And the idea would be to excavate all of that dirt, bring it down to the creek level, and create a huge detention area during flooding. The property was owned by the Trampy organization, and previously that was Petrolite. Again, to shorten it, when I finally got a chance to meet with the Trampy group earlier in January, it turns out that Great Rivers Greenway already had the property under contract. We're planning to close on that property. We met with Great Rivers Greenway. They were very willing to work with us to see if that still couldn't be a possibility to do with that property. Their concern is just trying to get across the creek into Brentwood to tie the county-wide trail system to the path on Dorothy, which again, I think we can work that out. The other thing that's going on in that area is that MSD has a huge sewer separation project that won't even start construction in that area, which is the end of this project, won't start for about 2 years. But the goal would be we're trying to set up meetings with MSD right now. The goal would be to coordinate that excavation, if it's possible, with MSD, obviously to get them to fund it as well through our flood mitigation funds, as well as the Deer Creek watershed funds to do that work. I talked today with representatives from East West Gateway, Great Rivers Greenway. They are doing their due diligence and closing on the property, and found out they need to find out if that property could actually be excavated, because it is under some type of government, I forget which, well, DNR is monitoring the property for contamination. So we have to determine, we would have to find out that if the property could actually be excavated. I just think, again, I just want to let everybody know that we're working in that direction. That could have a huge impact on some of what I would say some of the regular flooding along the Manchester Road corridor if we're able to do that. And the timing is right with both Great Rivers Greenway and also MSD with this other project. So this could have a significant improvement for Manchester Road. So I will try to keep you up to date on that. Other than that, that's all I have. Public Safety Committee?
No.
Public Works Committee?
Your Honor, no report, but I did want to say we might want to expand on your idea to excavate that area to the new Norm West expansion park and possibly talk to Metro about their ground.
Actually, that's where the trail would go, actually. You mean the excavation part? Or,
right,
right,
removing dirt from the floodways.
Director of Planning, anything further?
No report, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ways and Means Committee?
Yes, Your Honor. Next meeting comes up third Wednesday of this month. I believe it's the 19th at 5:30 here in Chambers.
Okay. City Attorney?
No report, Your Honor.
City Clerk Administrator?
No report, Your Honor.
Excise Commissioner? No report. Library?
No report.
Municipal League, nothing to report. Historical Society?
No report.
No closed meeting.
Let me ask, excuse me, do you have any report back there you'd like to give, President?
Nope.
Okay.
Any unfinished business? Don't you dare.
Yes. Your Honor.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes, Your Honor. But just a point of clarification. It's not a big deal, but I do want to get it on the record. Alderwoman Saunders brought up during Bill 5839 some quote that someone from Brentwood Forest didn't know about the deck issue, the deck requirements, deck permit requirements. I believe that the comment that she's referring to has to do with the enabling legislation for Brentwood Forest, the ordinance that goes back to, well, Your Honor, you were here. I was in 1979, I'm thinking.
I wasn't here in 79.
Oh, sorry. Well,
Gosh.
you were here.
I was here. I was just out of high school. But yeah. But they called me when they did that.
Lee,
Yeah, they did.
I was here.
Lee was here.
I came in
Previous
78.
Alderman was. I think that there was the belief that the enabling legislation for Brentwood Forest, which was originally Audubon Park, covered the deck process. And I don't believe that any of the management for Brentwood Forest was aware that it wasn't already covered by the enabling legislation. So I'm glad that it passed, and I just wanted to clear that up.
Good. Okay. Any new business? Alderman Lady.
Ward 3 meeting for the month of March is Tuesday night, the 25th of March, 7 p.m. up here in the council room. All are invited.
Alderwoman Saunders.
And mine's Tuesday, March 11th at 6:30 here in the conference room.
Okay. The next item, public comment. If anybody would like to address the Board of Aldermen, please come forward, give us your name and address. Hearing none, I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Second, Your Honor.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, we are adjourned. Got done by 10:05.